Hello again, and welcome back to all our viewers who are joining us for this live broadcast on our One Play Sports platform. So we had to temporarily actually cut the stream off only because it's raining cats and dogs here. But the problem has been resolved, and we have good news. We're good to get underway again. So we have Professor Pierre Lavega, who's joined us from Spain for an extremely exciting discussion that we have lined up for you. So I'll just give a very quick introduction of Dr. Pierre Lavega. So he's the president of the European Association of Traditional Sports and Games and a professor and head of research at the National Institute of Physical Education of Catalonia at the University of Lleida in Spain. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we have an extremely exciting topic that we will be discussing with Professor Lavega, and we'll be talking about how we can actually encourage local culture through sport and traditional games. So how exactly we can think not just globally, but locally as well, and not just think, but act both globally as well as locally and encourage local culture through sport and traditional games. Dr. Pierre Lavega, we have lots of viewers who are joining us on our One Play Sports networks, and they're extremely excited to listen to your presentation. So you have the next 35 minutes to present to them. And then at the end, we can leave about 2 or 3 minutes for Q&A as well. So the stage is set for you, Dr. Lavega.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers of this event. I think that it's very, very important to promote this sort of online meetings in order to do our best to share world networks. And now, at this moment, we can take profit of the technologies to be there. I'm talking to you from Lleida, from Spain, and you are in India or some other countries, and there isn't any problem to keep in touch. So it's a really pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I would like to share my presentation with all of you, trying to be very practical in order to show you one dimension of a sport when we are talking about culture that sometimes it's not very well known, but it's very important to be present when we talk about Olympism, the values, and education. So let me share with all of you my presentation. Moment. Okay. One moment. Okay. Okay. The idea is how we should provide some tools to promote the local culture through sport, through traditional games. That means to think globally in order to act in a local way. So I would like to take profit of my this time that I will use for you to develop 4 parts. The first one, what means to consider these sort of activities as intangible cultural heritage. Afterwards, related what we have said in the previous session, that we should do our best to demonstrate the real contribution of these sort of activities in current society. So research is very important. The school, the students are the key of all these issues, but also the future professionals, that is the university, the undergraduate students on physical education and sports science. And finally, I would like to share with you some ideas about what networking means, and I would like to invite you in my last part of contributions. I would try to be very practical because I know that teachers of physical education are mainly one of the main destinators of this speech. So let's go to see what intangible cultural heritage means when we are talking, never mind where, because in all the communities of the world, we can identify a great variety of traditional games, of sports that are connected with local culture, with different rules, with different ways of playing, but always in the same direction when we talk about their values. Look at this picture. It's we can see here, it's an example. Some elderly people, they are playing together. They are prepared to play in skittle games. And Nunzio Ordin, a colleague from Italy, uses this expression, perhaps here one key point is the usefulness of the uselessness of traditional games. What does it mean? Then here the value is what is happening there, and perhaps it's not very visible. This person, this player, is 96 years old.
Professor
He,
Lavega, I'll
yes,
just very I'll just very briefly interject. Sorry about that. I don't think you've opened up your presentation as yet, Professor Lavega. I think it's just in preview mode. So if you could just perhaps double click on the link, and then I think people will be able to see the full screen of the presentation.
I should try it again to share my presentation. Share the
Right.
screen.
So we were able to see a screen, but we weren't able to see a presentation actually. So when you click on share screen, you'll
Yes,
have an option to share your application window, and then
yes.
once you click on that, you might be able to see your PowerPoint in the background.
So let's go to see if now it works. Is it working now?
It's loading. So exactly fantastic. Now all we have to do is I think you can just change it to presentation mode. Exactly. If you click on that, fantastic, Dr. Levega. We're all
Okay.
set now.
So you didn't see anything before.
No. I think we were only able to see the title slide, but nothing
Okay.
that you showed so far. So you could perhaps just
Okay.
summarize what you talked about.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. So I was telling you that I will try to do my best in order to be very practical in my presentation. I will follow 4 parts, and let's go to start with the first one. When we are talking what intangible cultural heritage means, and then I was telling you that never mind when we are focusing the attention, because around the world we can identify a great variety of traditional games, traditional sports with different rules, and then they are sharing many common values, and this should be highlighted. So there I was telling you that in this picture some players, elderly, they want to play and skittle games. It's just an example, and perhaps one key point could be to identify this part that is not visible. That means the usefulness of the uselessness of traditional games. You can see here one player. He's 96 years old. He loves this game and he wants to play, but he has problems with his vision. So then the players decided to paint in a very clear way with white color the pins in order to help him. That is the key point. What we are not saying, but they are there present as intangible cultural heritage, all the things that they are sharing, not just in an organic way, biological way, activating the earth, but they are activating many things that should be taken into account. They are sharing a non-utilitarian learning. They are, because here in this sort of activities there is no need to produce, to quantify, to accumulate material goods. The originality of these culture activities is that they are expressed player with motor actions, with body actions. In everywhere we can identify people playing through motor conducts that they are testimony of signs and symbols of cultural identity. So there is a science, the science of motor action, that introduced this concept, ethnomotoricity. So that means the link of the game with the local culture. That means the link between the internal properties, that is the internal logic, with the other side of the same coin, the external logic, the context. Let's go to see it in a very easy way. The first thing, any game has different properties. And let me use this situation to understand better what I mean to tell you. What happens in the music? The musician can see a music competition, music score. Here you can see different notes, and the musician follows, understands, and interprets these notes, these musical notes, these laws, harmony, rhythm, and sense. And then he tries to do his best, her best, to be adapted there. What happens in a game? The same. Any game follows the grammar of the game through motor actions. Any player must be adapted to his or her her motor actions to the game internal logic. So any game has an internal logic, that means an identity card, that means different properties. There are not games of first category or secondary category. They are just games that they are different, the same that the sports. And then we can see that any game can be considered as a laboratory of social relationships. That means that when we connect the internal logic with the cultural context, that is the external logic because they are external to the rules, then we can understand the real and the deep meaning of this sort of activities, because traditional games are like showcases of the local community's cultures. They are linked to secular beliefs, performed according to traditional rites and ceremonies inspired by practices from every day. Physical then, so then physical games for part of cultural heritage generated by the body dialogue, generated by motor action, motor conducts. And for this reason, traditional games as cultural showcases are very connected with some other cultural manifestations like food, music, dancing, relationships. But in everywhere it's the same. Everywhere there is a very close connection with local culture. For this reason, we can find out the same values in order to start to learn to think globally, in order to act locally. Traditional games are a mirror of local communities' culture. And in this way, we could say that each player enacts the memory of tradition through motor conducts. In a very easy way, we can connect our culture playing a game that is connected with culture, with local culture. Let me show you an example. Here in Tunisia, we did some experiences with people from abroad. And then a colleague from France, for instance, show how to play an skittle game from France. And then we can see that it's a very clear way that playing a game, a traditional game, is one way to enter in a socialist and a society and to be socialized. Because by playing, people from different cultures live in a very intensive way the local culture from an internal point of view, playing the rules. And in the scenario proposed by any traditional games allows the actors to participate with a language that is equal for everybody in a simple, anyone can play, and a deep form. Let's see one example. We have studied through different colleagues the games of Tunisia, the same country. It's just an example. And we can see that after identifying these games, more than the majority of these games are collective games. What are telling us? People want to play together. The relationships are very important with different rules, very original. If they are using any field, they can use many different areas, and they have no 62%. They have not a final score. That means people are not divided in winners or losers. So there we can start to understand the values that are connected with this sort of games. From the other point of this coin, the external logic, the 77% of games are played with objects that are taken in a sustainable way from the environment, the local environment, the natural environment, and they are playing in some moments of the year. So that is the way to understand what intangible cultural heritage means, because any game behaves like a society, in a small society, a miniature society. And we should say that we should tell you that any game has some rules, and the rules are the depositories of signs of identity of local culture. Rules tell us in which way we can play, but these rules has been constructed, built by the society. So they are showcases of this identity of local culture. It's important so to connect games with the culture in order that any game should be examined in its social and historical context. I know because I live in here in Spain, in Catalonia, and this is one of the most representative example. So let me use it to understand what I'm telling you, because here there are a lot of people that they are connected like it was a network for these rules of this activity that are depositories of things of identity of the local culture. Some people says that Gaudí was inspired by the Castellers, the human towers, to build the Sagrada Familia, Barcelona. Let's go to see some similarities. Here, it's incredible. It's the same. Almost it's the same. but with different originalities, because we are talking about the cultural heritage. But when we talk about human towers, the originality are motor actions. Our body is the body language, is the immaterial heritage where people play the game and disappears very quickly. In the other side, Sagrada Familia and architectural construction is a material heritage. There are stones. There are some aspects that are always there. But in our field, motor actions are putting in action the collective memory. And in the same way that the Sagrada Familia, this cathedral, has an structure, Castellers, for instance, human towers, as well as any game, has an internal logic, an internal structure. In this way, is a cooperative structure where everybody want to do their best in a cooperative way. So then, when they try to train this activity, they are being adapted to this internal logic, and each player try to do their best to enact these actions, this memory of tradition. So everybody is trying there to be connected to achieve the same goal. Some similarities, but they are also very different. People can be placed in different fields, doing different actions, but all necessary actions together. And then each person try to activate in a unique, in a systemic way, the emotions, the decision takings, the relationships with other people. So there, when a person adapts to the internal logic of the human towers, that person learns to communicate, learns to mean. So there, emotion, decision, relationship, and physical effort represent the intangible cultural heritage and dimension of human towers. And people, when they start to do something like that, although they are not conscientious, they are learning to enter in their society. And then each person actives the deepest part of his or her personality. The immigrants learn to live local culture in a very, very deep way. And through playing traditional games, people learn to encode, to decode, to interpret cultural signs. And there, what key point is the emotion, because the affective local culture is learned. And then we can see a lot of many different sort of expression in feelings. When the goal is achieved, the positive emotions are there, and players start to learn what they are feeling, what is feeling the community. And each person lives a unique singular experience to interpret the internal logic of the game. So look at this. Emotions are experienced with a great intensity. It's wonderful where we connect the game with the local culture, because there is where we can find the deepest meaning. Let's go to what is happening when the players try to build a human tower. The leader of the group try to give the players some instructions, and people that are seeing there, they are connected with this emotional contagion, tension, pressure, anxiety. What will happen? We don't know. But finally, when the tower reaches the objective, happiness and a cultural effervescence is there. You can see in a very clear, visible way what is happening looking at the faces of that people. So all together, playing a traditional game like Human Towers is sharing many emotional effects of this activity: tension, risk, mental image, joy, fear, sadness. All is possible depending on what will happen in any match. So there we can see that there are a lot of people that connected with the local dimension. It's a great emotional community, this community of human towers. And through this type of games, we are considering that they represent the culture in motor actions, and they provide, it's a culture that is provided to be lived through motor actions. And it's very important for nowadays, because traditional games and sports shape. social attitudes. When a person shares an experience of well-being with other people, then the relationships are shared in a very deeply way too. So intangible culture is a way to enter into society, and the promotion of this sort of activities can therefore be an excellent bridge to learn to live together. Another key point in democracy and for becoming people that is living in a in an intercultural world. Let's go to the second part, because it's very important to demonstrate, not to use just nice words. We need to demonstrate in our field, which is the real contribution in current society, this sort of activities. So the education, the school is one of the keys for the present as well for the future of the society. And then the physical education is a magnific field. And which is my ideology? My ideology is to try to provide a physical education based on scientific evidences. Let's go to see, for instance, if we are ill and we go to visit a doctor, she is not a scientific, but his or her answers are based on evidences, scientific evidences. But on the other hand, normally we usually don't use scientific criteria. Not always. We need to give some tools if we want to innovate in physical education in order to achieve needs of the current society, like self-esteem, solidarity, peace, coexistence, gender equality, sustainability. And then traditional sports and games are a very important tool to achieve these sort of needs. So we need to promote research to generate, in a scientific point of view, the evidences, to identify examples of effective practices and to promote positive impact triggered by this sort of activities. Traditional games, we could say, that are a talisman to educate the personality of the protagonists, encouraging people to play. A traditional game means reviving the culture through motor actions. And what does it mean? It means reviving different levels. That means the emotional, the relational, the cognitive decision making, and the energetic experiences that were played by all the ancients who have lived before us. It's very important to know that. And what happens about the physical education teacher? That he or she should be aware that by using this sort of activities, we can generate a great diversity of motor experiences. If we, in our ideology, if we defend a great variety of activities, then we can identify them through traditional games. And this sort of experiences involves a diversity of cultural learning, especially for living together. So the social relationship provides for traditional games develops a sense of belonging to the group, and a sense of collective identity. So playing these activities promotes the establishment of democratic coexistence through the acceptance of rules, rights, and prohibitions that should be respected. Look at these pictures. Their players are connected in the deepest way with their personality. It's a very deep education. Carpe diem, live in a very intensive way now, at this moment. That's important. And there, something is happening. People are sharing a contagion, for instance, in an emotional way. People are sharing a contagion in a relational way too. And people are doing their best to use the decision making through different activities, to different games that they are like problems, like nice problems to be solved. So it's very important to promote the research. In our case, we love to work as a teamwork. Here is my team research group of research on motor action, and we are connected with people from around the world, trying to share some cross-cultural researches. For instance, we have put in practice the same games as examples in different countries, in different continents, and we have compared them. What we have discovered? We have discovered that, for instance, through the same games, never mind where we are using them, we are in the conditions to provide a high level positive experiences in an emotional point of view. It's very important. because their stimulus is the same and the consequences are the same. So here you have a very clear tool. We have used the same in different regions from Spain, and it happens the same. And when we have used different types of activities, because we can identify games from the relational point of view, we can identify games that they are played alone, psychomotor plays, that we are playing in just in a cooperative way, like human towers, cooperatives, games like, for instance, wrestling games that they are opposite games, one player against another, or games that can be played in a cooperative and opposition way. We have identified what has happened there from this emotional point of view, and we have seen that through cooperative games, we are able to activate the most intensity levels of emotions, positive emotions. So it's very important to know this. It's very important to find out the meaning of people when they have played, what has been happened there. And then we use different strategies, for instance, within that undergraduate students, based on reflection on action. After playing, they explain us what has happened. But we use these strategies, adapted, of course, in secondary school, for instance. And we use different questionnaires or tools to identify this part that is not visible, and then people explain us what is happening. In some games where the rules identify prisoners, for instance, that they can be in another situation for for some moments, then we take profit of this and they ask them, what have you felt? What is happening there? And then we can start to understand the meaning of what is happening. In this slide, through a good friend from the north of Spain, Basque Country, Joseba Gonzalez, children from primary school, while some colleagues are playing, they are identifying in this case, the emotional experiences. So never mind the age of people, we can provide an intelligent physical education where people share many things. This is an example of an international project that we share with different secondary institutes from schools from France, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. And in the second year, these students shared in a festival, in a big festival of traditional games that was developed in Italy. They shared during a weekend some experiences. They explained what they felt there, and it was a very clear, deep, and nice experience in order to promote the intercultural dialogue in a very, very clear way. They shared, for instance, the experience to teach to primary school children from Italy some games. They share an international championship of this game that you can see in the middle. That is like the we use to places, and it's like baseball in a traditional way. And so we can promote an education based on scientific evidences. And then we should introduce this sort of activities and knowledge in the university, in our undergraduate students too. Here you can see one example. We have done different activities in a real way with people in different villages, in different cities, in a not formal context. Then we can see the result of the experience. And after having played some traditional games, my undergraduate students can start to share this knowledge, to think about what is this information telling us about this connection between games and local culture. They play and they take notes and they analyze what they have experienced and they share in a cooperative way. And I'm sure that in the near future, when they become future professionals, they will provide a high quality physical education actions. We have organized also some workshop with educators, with professionals, physical education teachers, and with other strategies. After having played some different games, they analyze their results, and then they can notice that through these sort of activities we can promote some very important values that, for instance, UNESCO highlights, like tolerance, culture of peace, dialogue among civilizations, dialogue among cultures, or approachment of cultures, because we can use very, very original rules, very great variety of games from around the world, because there are a great, great, great amount of options if we consider all the world. And it's important to publish papers, of course, but to give some very practical tools to our teachers. So it's an example. We have organized several MOOC courses, that means massive open free online courses. In this case, to highlight one core learning point issue, learning to live together through these games. And then, because from my point of view, it's necessary that any teacher be trained to recognize traditional games as intangible cultural heritage, as and as a different means of education for living together. And in this course, we show that people, when they are playing, they are moving their bones, of course, their muscles, of course, but there happens something else. For instance, it's a great, great laboratory of relationships that should be find out. In the last part of my contribution, I would like to share with you the idea that one of the, from my point of view, one of the most important challenge nowadays is to try to do our best to follow, to go on a networking going from global to local. That means think globally in order to act locally. That means that when we have an open mind, when we identify games related to local culture from around the world, and when we identify that we share the same values, then we can understand that we are closer, that we are more similar than sometimes we could think. And then through this knowledge in a very practical way, we can understand, we start to understand which is the treasure of these sort of activities, that they are not very well known, but they are connecting all of us with our local culture, with our local meaning. So there are some institutions like UNESCO that they have tried to activate this networking. I would like to just to in 1 second to tell you that I'm president of the European Association of Traditional Games and Sports, and I'm vice president of the International Association of Traditional Games and Sports. Why? Because we feel the necessity to share this network in these both organizations, museums, schools, universities, federations of traditional sports, and local associations, cultural associations work together at the same level. And in the direction that UNESCO is trying to provide. I'm expert of UNESCO. I've been cooperating and I cooperate with them. They have organized different meetings, they have organized different collective meetings in order to create this international platform of traditional games and sports. And I've been the pleasure to share these sort of activities in order to start to activate this world networking. In this picture, you can see some examples of ministers from different continents, from different countries, that they highlighted the idea to become a group of country friends of traditional sporting games, just to provide this sort of values that we are considering when we talk also to Olympism, values and the education. So at this moment, there are some in the strategic objectives, some issues, some challenges, policy guidelines, an international platform, an online encyclopedia, and some resources related to management and communication. I was the coordinator of the first topic, and then we explained the necessity to consider all the context, the education, of course, the modality in the competition also, but the recreation, leisure, the tourism, all the content should be taken into account. Why? Because there, if we work in this open mind, on the left, we have seen in the past, in the previous slides, that we can provide the different dimensions of health, of well-being, like the organic, dimension, the affective dimension, the relational dimension, and the cultural dimension. That means the global point of view of well-being in different contexts: education, recreation, festivals, federations, competitions, and with different stakeholders, with different agents, government experts, federation researchers, teachers, practitioners. So we need to activate this networking. It's necessary. It's very important and necessary. For this reason, in my last part of my speech, I would like to invite you. Two invitations I'm going to present you. The first one is focusing the attention to physical education teachers, universities teachers, student researchers, as well as schools. Now we are sharing a world project in order to focus the attention in two issues. We could consider many issues, but we are just considering the fostering social inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities, and also in another way, at the same moment, in a parallel way, the gender equality. So teachers, schools, faculty, or researchers that would like to join it, please contact me, because at this moment we are trying to activate some courses, online courses, some practical guides, and also a tool, a very easy tool. We are trying to design an app that could be used in a very easy way after playing a game or using a session or a program. And we have the translation of this questionnaire in different languages, as you can see, in different languages with this open mind and world vision. So if there are some of you would be interested to share this project, please contact to me in a very free way. And the second invitation is for researchers. At this moment, I'm coordinating a top-level monography research topic in a high-level journal, Frontiers and Psychology, and this research topic is related to traditional games. So if you have some contribution in this area, please contact to me or look for the website of this journal. So through this message, I think that now we could understand better what means think globally and act locally in order to encourage local culture through sports and traditional games. Thank you. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Lavega. It was a very interesting, exposure of the work which you have done in the field of traditional games all over the world. And I think this effort of the Indian Olympic Association Committee of India, they have really taken a leap into this particular area of globally uniting all the people, like-minded people who want to think together and act locally also. So I missed out your initial this thing because of some technical problems, but whatever I could, attend after that, I think it was really mind uh, blowing. It was something which we really need to think globally and act locally. I feel that the contents of your speech, which have been divided into 4 different parts, right from beginning with the usefulness of the traditional games and the sports, and then coming down to the different aspects of scientific evidences, coming to the third part was training the graduates, and finally the research part of it. uh, Professor, Indian culture has been basically based on that think that the entire world is a family. This is the basic, Upanishad, this thing that Vasudev Kutumbakam is something that we feel that the entire world is a family, and we should be, taking care of each other. And your project of thinking that think globally and act locally is, I think, in a perfect harmony with what our culture thinks of. The second part, the organization from which I come is Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. This is basically an organization of schools under the Ministry of Human Resource Development. We have about 1,239 schools in this, and a population of 13 lakh students across the country. We have programs which include, cultural exchange programs. We have sports where the students move from one place to the other. We have, adventure activities and other things. But I think what studies which you have done is really showing another way of, organizing things or studying those things, so that education can be made more meaningful, more scientific, and more research oriented. I feel that the work which you have done in the field of traditional games and sports will really be an insight to our way of thinking also, as far as this thing is concerned. And I think we really require your guidance, your help, and the teachers from our country would really be looking forward for your guidance and support. We have a question. I think Mr. Umang, you are there. So he has a question for you,
Namaskar,
sir.
sir.
Hello,
Namaskar,
please,
sir. Lavega, sir, and Chauhan, sir. My name is Umang Dawn, and I am a board member of Traditional Sports and Games Federation of India. I have questions, sir. We have many traditional sports in India, like a shooting ball, gulel, lagori, yogasana, and we are hosting many games and festivals since long time. So how can we approach Olympic Association and other TSG, traditional sports and games, to promote our game, local games at global level through your perspective?
I think that there are two key points. The one point is to open mind and to think through Olympism and through the Olympic education point of view that some values are common and are not just focusing the attention for the high competition. If you think about, for instance, what you can do through local culture, you can see that the main goal is not to achieve medals, is to learn better, which is the meaning in that local context. So after giving this information and different knowledge to people that have different responsibilities, then you can try to identify best example of best practices in different fields. And for this reason, it's very important to work together in a network, because we can identify very nice experiences around the world, in one country, in one continent, one around the world, and it's necessary to identify them and afterwards to keep in touch with people that share the same goals. For this reason, I'm always telling you, let's go to work together. Let's go to make reality the network, because then we can find very easy ways to replicate something that has been going on very well in another context.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So that concludes proceedings from this
Lavega,
session.
I would like to just have one. Can I put up the question? We have the time.
Mr.
The
Chauhan,
thing is,
we're
sir, that
about to
in
start
India-
the next session, so would request you to perhaps conclude proceedings.
Okay, chalo.
Was this-
Right. I'll just thank.
But of course, if
Lavega.
you have
Sir, thank
any
you very
closing,
much.
if you have any closing comment, Mr. Chauhan, go for it. If you have any closing
Yeah,
comment.
I do have. I think we need
Yes.
we need to, I think about that the culture, the traditional games and sports, which on which so much of work has been done. We need to think about the curriculum designing in our school system also, so that the children at the local level can enjoy their childhood with the traditional games and also do the learning at the same time. I think it was a wonderful speech, sir. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you the organizers, Mr. Avinav, Mr. Prashant, and all people who are engaged in organizing this. This is a wonderful thing, and I think it is a great step towards the education of India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the moderator of this session, and it was a pleasure, and congratulations for this event. Thank you so much. It was a really pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much again, Mr. Chauhan. Thank you so much again, Dr. Lavega. This was certainly a very, very engaging discussion that we had. I wish we had more time for this discussion, but of course, we have a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
more in store for all our viewers, and I'm pretty sure we'll have an even more in-depth discussion sometime in the future, perhaps on a One Play Sports platform. So thanks again to everyone who joined us from all over the
Yeah,
world,
yeah, definitely.
and we're all set now to commence proceedings with the next session that we have on the cards. And the next session will be moderated by Dr. Ram Nivas Yadav. And a very quick introduction. Dr. Ram Nivas Yadav is the founder of the Olympism Society. He's also an assistant professor at the Postgraduate Government College for Girls, Sector 42, Chandigarh. So this is going to be, again, a very, very exciting mouth-watering discussion on the relevance of Olympic truce nowadays. But of course, Dr. Yadav will provide more details on the topic, as well as the speaker that we have for this discussion. And we're just awaiting Dr. Ram Nivas Yadav's entry. So bear with us. You're watching this on our One Play Sports platforms. We've had plenty of comments come in from different social media platforms that we're actually broadcasting this on. We're on Facebook, we're on Hello, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Make sure you follow all of our pages on One Play Sports across the different social media platforms that we're present on. So I said you can actually be notified whenever we are going live. We of course we're carrying out this webinar across 2 days. We'll be live until 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time today, and we go live again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Indian Standard Time, all the way until 7 p.m., which is when we have the closing ceremony. Dr. Phyllis, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. How about you?
I'm doing very well. So we're just waiting for Dr. Ram Nivas Yadav, who will be moderating this discussion. And as soon as he enters the front stage, we can get going. So we'll give it a few seconds. If he doesn't enter, we can of course get going, given the paucity of time. But you'll have the next 40 or so minutes for your presentation. So feel free to be as detailed as you would like, and we'll leave about 7 to 10 minutes at the very end for Q&A as well, before switching over to the next session, which will start at 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time.
Okay, great. I am at your disposal, so let's wait for the moderator, and then I can start my intervention.
Fantastic. And where are you tuning in from, Dr. Phyllis?
From Athens.
From Athens. And what's the situation like in Greece, in Athens? I know these are very testing times for the world. What's the situation like?
Yeah, well, regarding the pandemic, it seems that we have coped with it in a very effective way, both the public as well as the government. We only have 183 deaths. Of course, this is a number because we're talking about the people, but it is still not a big number with regard to what has happened in other places around Europe, in Italy, in France, in Spain, in other neighboring countries of Greece. So as far as the tackling of the coronavirus pandemic is concerned, I think that we have been very effective. Still, we are waiting for a new wave, maybe from September or from December, and we have, of course, to be as effective as we were in the first wave.
Absolutely. It's great to know that, Greece has been taking all the precautionary and preventive measures to further inhibit the spread of this virus. We now have Dr. Ram Nivas Yadav, who's joined us. He is on the front stage. Dr. Yadav, the stage is yours. I have given your introduction. You could talk about the topic that we have in store, as well as introduce the speaker, and then over to both of you. Dr. Yadav, I cannot hear you. Dr. Phyllis, you cannot hear Dr. Yadav.
No, I cannot hear him. Maybe he has to unmute his micro.
He's unmute, so he's not on mute. So it could be an issue with the piece of earphones that you're using. Dr. Yadav, if it doesn't work, you could perhaps unplug the earphones that you have and try speaking directly to the laptop or the computer or the mobile you're using. That might do the trick. Still don't hear you, Dr. Yadav. Dr. Yadav, you could unplug the earphones and see if it works when you try speaking directly to the computer in front of you. So request to all of viewers to just bear with us for a couple of seconds. Of course, in the recent past, the entire world has gone virtual. But of course, with virtual, there are many upsides, but there are a few downsides as well. And one of the downsides is having to tackle some of these technical issues, which of course are commonplace. But we're doing our best to resolve these issues and to bring to you a smooth production to all the viewers who are joining in from all across the world, watching on a One Play Sports platforms. If you haven't followed our pages, if you haven't shared this link, then definitely do share this with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, such that more and more people can actually benefit from webinars such as these, and more people can benefit from the expertise that Dr. Phyllis, as well as a lot of his colleagues, have had to share so far on our platforms. I'll try adding Dr. Yadav again. Dr. Yadav, can you hear me, Dr. Yadav? If you can hear me, can you just give a thumbs up? You can hear me, right? Lovely. Okay, so we can't hear you as yet. Dr. Yadav, what you could do is you could simply unplug the earphones that you're using right now. Try speaking directly to the laptop and see if that might do the trick. Still don't hear you, Dr. Yadav. So Dr. Yadav, what I could do is I could, given the lack of time that we have, since we'll be starting the next session in about 50-55 minutes, what we could do is I could simply establish what the topic is on your behalf, and during Dr. Phyllis's presentation, if you do manage to actually sort out what the audio issue is, then we can definitely add you back to the front stage. Does that sound fine? Brilliant. Yes, still don't hear you, Dr. Yadav, but no problem. There are lots of viewers right now who are extremely excited for the start of this next presentation with Dr. Phyllis. Dr. Phyllis, just a very quick introduction about Dr. Phyllis. He's the director of the International Olympic Truce Center for Greece. Now, this was the bio that I just related was what we could fit on the creative, but I'm pretty sure he has lots of other achievements and accolades that I could go on and on about, but we'll keep it brief. And as I mentioned earlier on in the stream, the topic that we will be discussing is the relevance of Olympic truce nowadays, certainly a very nuanced topic, and all our viewers are eagerly awaiting for Dr. Phyllis to talk about this topic. So Dr. Phyllis, the stage is all yours. In case you have a presentation, you can share your screen with the viewers. And as soon as Dr. Ram Nivas Yadav is able to sort out the audio issues that he's experiencing at his end, we can add him back to the front stage as well, such that it's a more interactive discussion between him and you. Go for it, Dr. Phyllis.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you today and share my views on the relevance of Olympic truce nowadays. Unfortunately, although I have prepared some slides, I am not, there is a technical issue, so I cannot present them. Still, if any from the audience needs these slides, they can contact me, and I'll make sure that I'll send them to them. So let me at first introduce you to the Olympic truce by making a brief reference to ancient times. Back then, which is around 776 BC, according to the myth, Iphitos, which was the king of one of Greece's city-states, the city-states back then were in constant conflict. He went to the Delphic oracle to ask how he could end these conflicts. And the oracle urged him to revive the Olympic Games as a means to achieving temporary peace. So as the messengers traveled to various cities and states announcing the games, participants began their preparations, which essentially meant that armed conflicts gradually took a back seat as citizens who were also soldiers took part in the games, where a victory took on great value, not just symbolic, and this resulted in a reduction in the amount of time willingly devoted to bearing arms. So every 4 years, a ceasefire was agreed to for athletes, spectators, and artists to travel to and from the games in Olympia. The truce was observed, though not always in full, for some 1,200 years, making it the most durable peace accord in history. In modern times, up until the end of the so-called Cold War, sports and Olympism were, one way or the other, victims of world politics. They were postponed during the two world wars. Countries boycotted them for political reasons. However, shortly after the end of the Cold War, in 1994 in Lillehammer, the Olympic family and the United Nations took the lead. They proved that in coordination with each other, they can actively contribute to securing, even for a short time, the cessation of hostilities. Thus, during the opening ceremony of the Lillehammer Winter Games, and for 24 hours, a ceasefire was achieved in the whole of ex-Yugoslavia. Back then, there was a civil strife undergoing in ex-Yugoslavia, but this was the first achievement in 1994, even in a small corner of the earth, because we consider it to be as a precious beginning. 6 years later, the Greek government, in cooperation with the International Olympic Committee, decided to revive the idea of the Olympic truce by creating an agency, the International Olympic Truce Foundation and Center, to promote the necessity of honoring the truce, which is a ceasefire lasting through the 16 days of the Games, the Olympic and the Paralympic Games, in an effort to adapt the practice of the ancient truce to the demands of modern times. 16 days during the Olympic and another 16 days during the Paralympic Games. You can, of course, understand the vast importance a ceasefire can have in war zones, if only for a month, because it provides an opportunity for a number of actions, from the provision of humanitarian aid through the opening of requisite corridors to time for seeking a compromise formula. The main reasoning behind the Olympic truce is that through a temporary ceasefire, we provide the time for the involved parties not just to sit at the negotiating table, but also to see the benefits of non-conflict and to consider whether in the end it is worth their while to continue hostilities rather than live in peace, not necessarily in harmony, but in peace. As you know, sport is in a unique position to put the spirit of the Olympic truce into practice. Sport is the only area of human existence that has achieved universal law. Regardless of where in the world we practice sport, the rules are the same and apply to everyone. They are based on our shared values. Sport is always about building bridges. It is never about erecting walls. In Olympic sport, all people are equal, regardless of their race, gender, social status, cultural background, faith, or belief. This fundamental principle of non-discrimination allows sport to promote peace and understanding among all people. Nelson Mandela, late Nelson Mandela, said that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. This is certainly true. It is worth noting that IOC President, Mr. Thomas Bach, attaches great importance to Olympic education, which is a boosting incentive for all of us who serve the Olympic ideals and are part of the Olympic family. When we first started out, our absolute priority as Olympic Truce Foundation and Center was that the truce be respected during every Olympic Games. And to that end, we used public figures who commanded strong symbolism around the world, like Nelson Mandela and a number of heads of state. But we soon realized that the goal of having the truce respected without tools for imposing it or sanctions, penalties for breaking it, would have to be reworked. So we needed another approach. And therefore, we decided that while we would continue to try to see the UN resolutions respected, the resolutions that are issued the year before every winter or summer games, we would also have to expand our activities into the field of education, especially reaching young people. And we would have to do this while respecting the unique characteristics of each case, so that the ideals we represent and that promote peace through sport could take root and flourish. In other words, we don't just wait to see whether the truce will be honored every 2 years. We are working systematically on the community level, and we are focusing on the young so that notions like peaceful resolution of differences, tolerance for other views, tolerance for diversity in general, like faith, race, political convictions, become part of their basic value system. On our behalf, as in the National Olympic Truce Center, we strongly support grassroots programs and community-based action. Sport and cultural projects contribute to our efforts to bring communities closer, get them know each other's special characteristics, religion, language, tradition, etc., and eventually accept them. So if this endeavor is to succeed, we need to have the younger generation on our side. We need their spontaneity, we need their passion, we need their idealism and their creative expression, all of which make them the best possible ambassadors of our timeless messages. And in that respect, we need your support and assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, as said, in Olympic sport, all people are equal, regardless of their race, gender, social status, cultural background, faith, or belief. This fundamental principle of non-discrimination allows sport to promote peace and understanding among all people. The Olympic values, excellence, friendship, and respect, are the prerequisite not only for moving our societies forward, but also for restraining or diffusing conflicts or disputes, which in addition to their other tragic consequences, destabilize entire countries or regions. Conflicts that are waged for years. And because of them, we are running the danger of losing generations of young men and women who are imbued with hatred and intolerance. Young men and women who learn the art of war and fight in war zones from their early years. Young men and women who learn to handle a weapon better than they use a ball. And they believe that the things that divide people are greater than the things that unite them. In contrast, we strongly believe that the things that unite us are greater than the things that divide us. Here, let me stress the success that we had a couple of years ago in Pyeongchang Winter Games. We often underestimate the power of sport to bridge differences, if not to resolve them altogether. In the case of an issue as complex and difficult as that of the Korean Peninsula, which involves regional and international interests, competition between big powers, and the risk of nuclear war, the Winter Olympic Games provided an opportunity for the two Koreas to come to the table for talks after an uneasy hiatus of about 2 years. The Games certainly didn't settle all their differences, but they enabled the two sides to come closer together, de-escalate tensions, and bear witness to the beneficial consequences of peace, as opposed to the risks involved in sustaining any potential for conflict. The opportunity of the Olympic Games at last served as a springboard for talks on thornier issues, provided the two sides showed the requisite political will. Regardless of the result, we should reflect on the fact that if it weren't for the milestone of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games, February of 2018, there would not have been an occasion for the dialogue between Seoul and Pyongyang. There are also several major achievements accomplished since 2000. The highlights are North and South Korea marching under the same flag at the same Games in 2000, Iraq and Afghanistan participating in Athens Olympic Games despite being at war in 2004, and in 2011, all 193 UN member states unanimously supported the resolution of Olympic truce. Ladies and gentlemen, in the complex modern world, the types of conflict are diverse, and certainly they bear little resemblance to the notion of war in ancient Greece. In our era, unemployment and poverty exist in many countries and create conflicts within society. I am sure we are aware, and you are all aware, of the situation that exists in many parts of the world, including part of the more developed nations. On top of that, we often talk about economic wars among countries, and the consequences of these conflicts are visible. The lack of understanding among different groups or communities that coexist in a society may also lead to social conflicts, which undermine social cohesion. One of the most important wars taking place in our era is racism. And we can see what is happening in the last couple of weeks in the United States, probably the most developed and powerful democratic country worldwide. Not only does racism have a cost in human lives, but it can lead to other types of war as well. Racism exists in any form of discrimination based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, physical or mental ability. And racism reveals the tendency of one group to dominate another culturally. Religion and the way some interpret it is also another area where ignorance about the values of the other community may lead to misinterpretation of what the other really believes and potentially to conflict. So what can sport do to contribute, and where and to which field can they contribute? Large-scale sporting events, such as the Olympic Games, can lay the groundwork and provide the necessary time for notions such as the Olympic truce to be applied. All individuals compete under the same rules. They are equals when they compete. Sports are designed to incorporate differences and to promote mutual understanding. In the Olympic Games, we all see that all athletes support each other even when they compete against each other. Our center strongly supports, as said before, grassroots programs and community-based action. Sport and cultural projects contribute to our efforts to bring communities closer, get them know each other's special characteristics, and finally accept them. Olympic truce, as mentioned, is the longest peace accord in human history. Although there were flaws in the history of Olympic truce, this periodic peace accord is the peace institution with the longest history and effect, as it transformed a sports event into the greatest cultural event of all humanity, of all ages. The legacy it created is based on the commitment of men to peace and the ideals that support it: mutual respect, friendship, and excellence. Olympic education is the carrier of the Olympic legacy, which is a legacy of peace. This legacy incorporates the will of men and women to live up to these values, to honor their commitments, and live up to the Olympic ideals. Olympic education paves the way so that Olympic ideals can be transferred from generation to generation, instilling the values of respect and peaceful coexistence in those willing to accept them. It develops a system of values and ideals that has been recognized and accepted for many centuries. In other words, a lasting cultural achievement of human civilization. Also, it creates a system of different but widely accepted values, values that offer an ideal starting point for global education based on Olympism. Ladies and gentlemen, as Olympic Truce Center and Olympic Truce Foundation, we do not aim to supersede local, regional, or international organizations which are responsible for finding solutions to political issues. As I said in the beginning, we aim to lay the necessary groundwork for our initiatives to flourish. We cooperate with political institutions, but we do not intervene in political issues. We are not an organization that offers humanitarian aid like food, medicine, and clothing, and we do not have the means to do so. We are the branch of the largest sport organization in the world, and we aspire to familiarize post-conflict societies with peace ideals. We do not heal the wounded. We help people overcome the traumas of war. We educate people in the ideals of peace and Olympism so that they can live the rest of their lives in peaceful societies. For this reason, we invest in humans. We concentrate our efforts not on procedures, but on education. Through our educational programs, we aim at helping people forget the tragedies of war by teaching the benefits of collaboration. But we certainly need, among other things, infrastructure to apply our vision. And the International Olympic Committee has financed the construction of a number of sports complexes around the world. Of course, it is not easy to finance such projects all the time, but we are ready to support them in crucial areas where sport infrastructure is absent due to war. Sport infrastructure becomes the safe house of Olympic ideals. Even in turbulent areas, sport facilities serve as a place where everyone, and especially the young, can go and practice sport. Let me conclude by sharing with you the following. Excellence does not apply only to competition. It also applies to social performance, how you act within your community and try to be a useful member of society. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm now at your disposal for questions, observations, comments. So once again, thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Phyllis. Dr. Yadav, you can unmute yourself, and in the event that you have any questions or you would like to take any questions coming in from the audience, then you can pose them to Dr. Phyllis. Dr. Yadav, can you hear me? Dr. Yadav, you're on mute right now. You'll just have to unmute yourself and then you can ask your question. Dr. Yadav, you simply have to unmute yourself. You're on mute currently. Yes, Dr. Yadav. You had unmuted yourself for a second there, but you're back on mute. If you could just unmute yourself and then you're good to go. Dr. Yadav, still the same issue. Yeah, go for it. We can hear you now, Dr. Yadav. Yes.
Is it? Can you hear?
Absolutely loud and clear, Dr. Yadav. Go for it. Can hear you very clearly, Dr. Yadav.
It's not audio. I can hear you, Mr. Anubhav.
Dr. Phyllis, you can hear me, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Hila is there to ask.
Lovely.
She has a question.
Hello, Mrs. Davidoff. I believe you have a question for Dr. Phyllis. So you can pose that question to Dr. Phyllis now.
Actually, I have two different.
Yeah, Hila is there to ask a question.
Yes.
And
absolutely. Mrs. Davidoff, go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Dr. Phyllis, you can hear Mrs. Davidoff, right?
Yep, I can.
Lovely. Brilliant.
Actually, I have two different questions. The first one is just to try to see about the difference between the Ike Sharia, the Olympic Trust, and Coubertin educational internationalism, and also how it refers to the UN resolution, because we can see that there are parallel programs, UN and IOC, and the cooperation with them regarding that. This is the first one. The second one is that unfortunately, because sometimes there are, as you said, some political issues between countries, how do you think that with educational program that will give through the 4-year cycle, we can help to promote this tolerance between athletes, but especially between the politicians that sometimes interfere in the competition and not allow some athletes to compete with some other athletes from other countries because these political issues, and actually do the wrong things and then not the and interfere in the spirits of the Olympic Games and Olympism.
Thank you for both questions. Regarding your first question, they are absolutely complementary. The IOC, as you know, has a very strong bond, and it has developed very strong partnership with the United Nations. So things are not working in parallel. They are working as a synergy. It is part of a greater synergy. And of course, this has provided the International Olympic Committee with the global audience, using the channels of the United Nations, And the United Nations has found the perfect partner to be able to use the power of sport as a platform for peace, to use the power of sport to distribute values which have sport at the core. And I'm sure that you know that when we use an athlete to try and instill to the wider public, but especially to the young generation, values and ideals, he is very penetrating. He's very effective in doing so, because he starts, he stands as a symbol. He stands as a paradigm and as a role model, to put it. So we use the power of sport through role models, which is sportsmen. You don't have to be a champion to be a role model. If you have acquired, if you have absorbed the Olympic values, you don't need to be a gold medalist to become a role model. Regarding your second question, yes, it is true that it is very discouraging, the fact that we see some countries not disallowing their or preventing their athletes from joining games when an athlete from another country is competing there. This is very problematic. But as you probably have seen in previous Olympic Games, for instance, in 2008, when at the very first day of the opening ceremony of the Beijing Olympic Games, we had the start of a short but still war between Russia and Georgia, we found out that the International Olympic Committee does not want to be part of the political context. We just want and need to use sport to diffuse tensions or to de-escalate tensions. But we cannot, and in general, I'm not speaking, of course, on behalf of the IOC, but the Olympic family, as far as I'm concerned, is not willing to have any kind of political role in what is happening worldwide. It can send very strong messages. Just imagine, or not imagine, let me stress, what President Bach did in 2016 during the refugee crisis. There were countries all over the world, including Europe, erecting walls against refugees and migrants. The strong and not only symbolic, but very effective message that President Bach sent back then was through the creation of a refugee team which participated in the Rio Olympic Games. So you can use, as I said at the very beginning, the power of sport to send some very strong messages worldwide. But the Olympic Truth Center, and I presume the IOC, although I'm not talking on behalf of the IOC, they do not want to have a political role. Politics is for politicians and for countries. Sport is for sportsmen and coaches, and of course, the International Olympic Committee and other organizations related with sports. So we can send very strong messages. We can convey these very strong messages through highly symbolic gestures, like the one that happened with the refugee team. It was not only symbolic, it was essential. You know, the International Olympic Committee does not have the means to impose, and probably is not willing to impose sanctions or take measures with regard to political decisions. It has done so with regard to doping, for instance, or other issues related purely with sports. But as far as politics are concerned, I think that we keep a safe distance from politics. Or at least we have to.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Dr. Yadav, do we have any more questions for Dr. Phyllis? I believe, Mrs. Panchal, I believe you have a question for Dr. Phyllis as well, right?
Yeah, I have. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
next
you're
question
audible.
is
Okay. So hello to all. And first of all, I would like to congratulate entire Truth Center for your successful and positive efforts. It is indeed understood to all that sports is a powerful weapon, and so is the education. Right now, sir, I am working and I'm serving Indian government as a primary teacher. I'm right now working in Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, which controls all the central schools across India and few branches abroad. So I'll stick to my domain, and my question is that is there any streamlined pattern or a system which can be applied for young students that can be followed through which the values and the movement can be utilized in a more fruitful way? For example, if we take a topic of bullying, if we introduce a topic of bullying to a child of class 4 or 5, it is very abstract for the child to understand, right? So right now in India, we are practicing peace education in an integrated form. We generally integrate peace education and the values with the subjects like language, mathematics, sport, of course, social sciences, and etc. But is there any plan which actually facilitate the students of all age groups in an interlinked form in a progressive way? So is there any systematic plan for that?
Thank you. Great question, as were the previous ones. And you give me the opportunity to share with you one very specific thought. In order for the True Center, and of course for other organizations to cooperate, for instance, with relevant organizations in India, in Pakistan, worldwide, we definitely need strong willingness from your side, and I can see that you have the strong willingness. I can verify that. And we also need the contribution and the assistance of the relevant ministries, because without the ministry, be it the Ministry of Education, be it the Ministry of Sport, be it the Ministry of Culture, depending on each country's way of governing, we definitely need, apart from local partners, which we can find, and we are cooperating with numerous local partners in many places around the world, we need the assistance by the government or by the local government. Otherwise, we cannot proceed with cooperation and make sure that this cooperation is effective. I have many examples to share with you from Latin American countries, from Asian countries, from African countries, where we have started the synergy. In some cases, it ended up well. In other cases, we were stuck in the middle for bureaucratical reasons or other stuff. So what we need in order to succeed is a local partner, the assistance by the local or the national government, and the relevant ministries, the ministries which are supervising these programs. And we also need to develop a program, as you said before, very correctly, a program or a mechanism that adapts to the special characteristics of each country. For instance, if we want to tackle a worldwide challenge that is bullying, we use sports. In India and Pakistan, national sports or sports which have which apply to most are not the same necessarily with those in Greece, for instance. So we need to find both the means, that is, which kind of sports and which kind of role models are we going to use, as well as the characteristics, as I said before, the special characteristics of each country, apply them to our programs, and actually adapt our programs to each case. We are not talking about one case for everybody. We are talking about unique cases in every single country. And I suggest that if you're interested, because we also need the specialists for these kind of programs, from psychologists to teachers to trainers, etc. We can have a discussion together and see how we can join forces. I'm sure that we can do that. But again, it is not one program that can run in every single part of the world. We need different programs, and we need to adapt our core program to the needs and the characteristics of each country, each region.
Okay. I understood your point and I look forward to it, the solution. Thank you so much. And just for the reference, in the year 2014, a program was conducted by the center, Imagine Peace Youth Camp. I was one of the delegates over there. Yeah, and I represented my nation. And the program, it facilitated me with so many strategies and the publications by your center. I am using those. And if in the audience there are some teachers, I suggest to go through them. There are publications like Colors of Peace and Respect Diversity. They are quite useful. So that's all. Thank you so much. More power to you. Thank you.
I'm really honored. I'm really honored because by the time I saw you, I said, "Well, this face reminds me of something." It years, of course, but I also think and would like to praise all our partners for the very successful Imagine Peace Youth Camps that we organized, and you can confirm that these camps were, for some at least participants, not necessarily a turning point, but they provided you with a bigger picture of how sport can serve as a platform for peace. And thank you very much, and I'm really glad with how you have proceeded, and I am at your disposal, of course, for future synergy between our organizations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yoshita.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yoshita. Dr. Yadav, I'm pretty sure you have something to say.
Coming.
Yes, Dr. Yadav, are you saying something? I think there's still a bit of lag, but I can definitely
Any
post
more
a few questions that I have for Dr. Phyllis. I had a few questions, but Dr. Yadav, in case you have any questions, then you can certainly pose your questions first.
So shall I?
Dr. Yadav, I actually had a couple of questions for Dr. Phyllis. We still have about 12 minutes left, and I would actually like to appeal to all the viewers as well to pose their questions and use the hashtag #OnePlaySports whenever you're posing a question, such that I can actually recognize that it's a question and not just a comment coming our way, and I can pick that question out. But Dr. Phyllis, we spoke a lot about truce, how sports can actually promote truce, promote peace, and a topic such as this is very relevant right now, given the trials and tribulations that we're facing in the world, especially in the West. If you look at the scenario in the United States, in the Western part of the world. So I think it's a very pertinent issue that we discussed, and this was very timely. Dr. Phyllis, on a slightly personal note, I'm slightly interested in knowing how exactly did you get into this field of conflict resolution, international relations? What was the genesis of your interest in this field, especially within the context of sport, within the domain of sports?
I used to be a sportsman myself. Not a professional one. Maybe I was not that capable. But still, since my early life, I dealt with sports, and I realized as I was growing up, the positive effect, the positive impact that sport had in my life, in my decisions, in the way I was approaching things in life, in my devotion to fulfill my goals and objectives, in respecting my friends, my relatives, my students when I became a professor, in respecting everybody, because this was at the core of the values which I received as an athlete from sport. So as I was growing up, I decided to deal with international affairs, and then I find it very interesting to see the combination. On the one hand, as I said during the first set of questions, sport cannot be engaged with politics or cannot be involved in politics. But on the other hand, the power of sport has to be used as a means, as a very effective tool to promote values which cannot but be universal. So this combination, although sport and politics have to work in parallel and not meet each other, was very interesting. And what struck my attention even more was that sport can really become a tool either to de-escalate tensions when they are undergoing tensions, or when we have a conflict, be it between states or a civil strife, to after it ends, to try and try and this challenge of repairing ties, try to do it not only through, but also through sport. For instance, I talked before about racism. One of the very easy tasks, which at the same time is very effective, is when we have a game, any game, and we have mixed teams. So imagine a game in Israel, for instance, where Israelis and Palestinians are on the same team, not on opposite teams. When boys and girls are in the same team and they have the same goal, they have the same objective, so they start realizing that they can work as a team irrespective of their differences, because we are different. Every single one of us is different. I have differences with my wife, with my children, with my relatives, with my colleagues. I mean, life would have been very boring if we were all the same. But these differences do not stand as a barrier in preventing me from cooperating with them, from loving them, from having them as a company, etc., etc. So this, in my point of view, is at the epicenter of sport. The fact that you soon realize that yes, you can compete, yes, you can compete each other, but you need to respect your opponent. This is number one precondition for becoming an athlete: to respect your opponent, try not to win with unfair means, that is doping or other kinds of means, and maybe somebody who is an opponent in a game, in another game, can be playing or being part of your same team. So yes, we are different. Yes, there are things that can divide us. But as I said during my speech, and I'm very confident about that, 100%, things that unite us are always more than things that divide us. So it is a matter of approaching, a matter of approach, either in a matter of perception. I can decide to let the few things that divide me with somebody else to become a barrier. And I can decide to bring up the many things that unite us, irrespective of our gender, our race, our history, our culture, our religion, etc.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have about 5 more minutes left. I believe Mr. Ulak may have a question, or Mrs. Davidoff. But before I actually hand it over to them, Dr. Phyllis, I think you beautifully summed this up. And you can confirm this, given the fact that you are from Greece. You talked about how sport can actually promote unity between different nations, but I'm pretty sure it can also help in solving internal strife and internal conflict within a particular country. And I'm pretty sure after Greece won the Euros in 2004, the entire face of the nation must have changed permanently, and not just on the sporting front, but the entire nation. And I'm pretty sure you will be able to confirm that, given the fact that you are from Greece, from Athens.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even in the worst conflicts are the civil strifes, not the conflicts between states. Sure, we can and we are working in that direction as well. And I fully subscribe. I mean, I have nothing more to add to what we just said.
Brilliant, brilliant. Mr. Ulak, do you have a question for Dr. Phyllis? You are on mute right now, so you could just unmute yourself, and then you'll be able to pose your question. We can see you, but we can't hear you as yet because you're on mute right now. Mr. Ulak, you're on unmute now, so you can actually start your question.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
We can hear you clearly, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Phyllis and the Indian team to invite me and my team from Pakistan. And really, I appreciate the Olympic truce is playing very important role in developing countries, and particularly to solving the problems among the tribes and among the countries and different areas. I hope Olympic truce is the holy values of International Olympic. So I invite and I appreciate if Olympic Truce Center will help both of the countries, Pakistan and India, to unite for the sport, and we will do together to become a more peaceful and developed country, like internationally, to be very prominent countries to developing peace through sports. So what you suggest, Olympic Truce Center will help both of the sides to de-escalate these kinds of issues like war through sports.
As a professor of international affairs, I know the historical background in your region, and what I can tell you, and I can promise you, is that as we succeeded, because I consider it to be a success, and I hope that you all agree with me, as we succeeded in setting just a very small part in the de-escalation of tensions in the Korean Peninsula, because it happened since 2018. Things are not perfect, but things are perfect, and the situation is not perfect in many places around the world, not in the Asian continent. So as we succeeded in Korea, where things were also tough, I can assure you that we will do our best to succeed in the case of India and Pakistan. And the lady with whom we spoke before and participated in our Imagine Peace youth camp can confirm that we brought together students, participants from Pakistan and India, and they of course realized the obvious. As I said before, Yes, there are things that divide us, but they cannot be more than those that unite us. And they do realize that. They did realize that. And I can assure you that together we can work and set a plan for doing something similar, like the Imagine Peace Youth Camp. And of course, the Imagine Peace Youth Camp runs once per year. We can do programs that will run throughout the 365 days of the year. Now in 2020, we have 366 days, but next year we will get back to normal. So I am more than open to suggestions on your side, and I have also proposals on our side, because we have the know-how to set a plan which might include something similar to Imagine Peace Youth Camp. For instance, next Imagine Peace Youth Camp is probably going to take place in Korea. Bear that in mind.
Okay.
And I strongly encourage people from Pakistan and India to join us. But apart from the Imagine Peace Youth Camp, there are other programs that we can run throughout the year, through the schools, through institutions, through sport teams, etc. So we are more than open, and I only hope that what we've been doing today will be a strong incentive and will give us a boost in our cooperation. I'm very much interested personally in India and Pakistan, but it's not India and Pakistan, of course. There are other places in the world where we face conflicts and we face difficult situations. So to conclude, the International Olympic Truce Center is looking forward to your active participation in its activities, and we also want to to exploit your experience and expertise and your contribution in participating in a global, in creating a global network through which we can exchange ideas, experiences, and know-how with the aim of developing new projects that will promote respect for human rights and the Olympic ideals.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for both.
Fantastic. Before handing it over to Dr. Yadav, if I could make just one comment, it's very heartwarming to see what we're seeing right now. And I'll just describe to you, Dr. Phyllis, sitting in Greece, right, working on promoting conflict resolution between India and Pakistan, as well as working on reducing conflicts in other parts of the world as well. So that just goes to show, the power of sport in so many ways. You could be, regardless of where you are in the world, you could still do your bit in promoting global peace and global prosperity. Dr. Phyllis, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on our One Play Sports Networks. Dr. Ulak, thank you so much for your very enlightening question. Dr. Yadav, in case your audio is fixed right now, I would request you to perhaps close this discussion such that we can get geared for the next session. So I'm not sure if Dr. Yadav can hear us, but a big thank you from all of us, from all the viewers from One Play Sports to Dr. Yadav as well for having joined us for this discussion as the moderator. Thanks again to everyone for joining us for this session. Stay with us in exactly 1 minute on our One Play Sports Networks. We'll be starting the next discussion, which will be moderated by Dr. Neeru Malik. And again, a very quick introduction of Dr. Neeru Malik. She's a fellow at Punjab University in Chandigarh, assistant professor at Dev Samaj College of Education, Chandigarh, and she's also a qualified international technical official, which is ITTF, and a master yoga trainer here in India. And the topic that will be discussed will be related to you by Dr. Neeru Malik. So she will take over, and she will also introduce the speaker that we have for this discussion. A very, very, very quick introduction, a very quick announcement before we actually get going. You are watching this on our One Play Sports networks. There are lots of questions and comments that are coming in, but I would request viewers not to spam the comment section. There are a few people who are spamming the section. Just so that I can read all the comments and questions that are coming in. An earnest request not to spam, and I will be going through all the questions coming in such that I can actually bring them to the front stage in case I see something very interesting. Dr. Neeru Malik, the stage is now set for you to take over. Yes, Dr. Can you hear me clearly?
Hi, good evening, Raghav. Am I audible?
You are audible, Dr. Malik.
So we have Alexis with us.
Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste. Welcome to India.
Great to be digitally with you.
Thank you. So, Raghav, still we have, I think, 3-4 minutes. Should we start out or should we wait?
We can get going, Dr. Malik. We can get going. The scheduled start was 4 p.m. It's exactly 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So we're all set to get going.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Malik. We can start now.
Okay. So, a very good evening, each and everyone, on this international webinar, which is being organized by Indian Olympic Association under the dynamic leadership of Narendra Batraji and the chairman of this esteemed committee, Shri Prashant Kushwahaji. In a very short time, they have taken this initiative to organize this international webinar. This webinar is an effort to bring all minds together to work to promote Olympic education, Olympic movement, Olympism to serve humanity in a better way. So where in the era where the whole globe is locked down due to COVID-19 pandemic, had India, the Olympic movement, Olympic education, and Olympism through IOA as well as Indian Olympic Education Committee, putting their best to bring the nation in oneness, as well as Rijuji, the Sports Minister of Youth Welfare and Sports, today in his address, has really appreciated the efforts which are being made by this committee, as well as he said that the national education policy, he is going to ensure that in national education policy, sports should not only be considered as a part of co-curricular activity, but it should be the essential part of the education policy. So once the sports is going to be taken as an essential part, I ensure you that the Fit India move can be very well achieved, sports culture can be created, and we can serve the humanity in a better way. So it is my proud privilege to introduce the resource person of this session, Professor Alexis Lares. Friends, Professor Alexis Lares is the founder and president of Olympism for Humanity Alliance and holds an academic fellowship at the Conflict Resolution Program, Department of Government at Georgetown University since August 2012. Professor Lares also holds a faculty position at the Scuba International Academy for Sports Studies, TIA Center, the academic arm of Sports for Tomorrow, a Tokyo 2020 Games, which is unfortunately postponed due to pandemic COVID-19. The project Dr. Lares is currently working on a global academic innovation initiative for establishment of a worldwide humanitarian academic ecosystem committed in institutionalization, Olympism for Humanity, in action, teaching, research, and programming across the globe. So what a beautiful mind we can see of Alexis, who is PhD holder, president, Scuba International Academy of Sports Studies. It is again my proud privilege to highlight certain achievements of Professor Alexis. From my personal experiences, I can ensure that Professor Alexis is a wonderful human heart. He has devoted his whole life to serve the humanity around the globe through his action, through his mind, through his spiritual elements and well-beingness. Dr. Larisis brings a strong academic field research and impact assessment background to emerging field of Olympism and humanity in action. This framework has served as a blueprint for Laris' MA and PhD work with scholarship received from the Olympic Solidarity and was established through close to 20 years of field-based investigations and investigations, teachings and research. As a grantee and principal investigator, he has received $670,000 US in functioning from Olympic Solidarity, International Olympic Association, EU and UNDP, Generations for Peace and Charity, foundations to implement research-based cross-cultural youth peace building initiatives, and more than 2 lakh USD in collaboration projects focusing on peace building. Dr. Laris' field research-oriented program facilitated effective evidence-based programs and structured through a number of youth interventions and stakeholder training models that which emphasize the use of Olympism and peace building and sustainable development, what is known as Olympism in action, and his best effort to make each and every citizen around the globe locally active but globally connected to serve the humanity, to spread Olympism around the world. So indirectly or directly, he is knocking the door of each and everyone, either the lock of the mind, either the lock of the nation, either the lock of the house, the ground, the sports, the administrators, the policymakers, that to open up their hands to promote Olympism, to spread humanity, to spread Olympic education, Olympic movement, because they are the essential and integrated part of the whole education process. Dr. Laris' core expertise in the integration of originalization, cultural and educational aspects of applied Olympic education and Olympism in the society. He has contributed for the national, regional and international sports development, education and health agencies, civil societies, organizations, ministries and universities in Greece, Cyprus, Africa, Monaco and USA, Asia, Latin America, Japan and Caribbean. Dr. Laris has more than 30 years of experience in developing and implementing integrated research, teaching, student engagement, academic program, youth and professional sports programming, and in conducting monitoring and evaluation of the humanitarians, peace building and development of programs and initiatives across the countries. Dr. Alexis is the founder and president of Olympic for Humanity Alliance and holds an academic fellowship at the Conflict Resolution Program, Department of Government of Georgetown University since 2012. So I would like to now hand over to Laris, and I ensure you that he is going to empower us about, he has chosen the topic which is very close to our heart, that is humanity restoration, games and champions of change in the 21st century. Over to you, Alexis.
Well, I'm humbled and I don't know what to say with all this introduction. And I would like to say a big thank you for Namaste, Konnichiwa, Kalispera. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you. I'm very grateful for having this opportunity to digitally connect with you. I consider you and our friends, the Maliks and everybody in India and in Chandigarh, a big family, and it's very nice to reconnect. I would also like to say a big thank you to the organizing committee for the great initiative, and I would like to ensure them that we will be next to you in any way we can to support your vision And the vision is how we use this Olympic idea, or what we call the Olympic La-La Land, become reality. And in order to achieve that, obviously with the challenges that we face around us, then we have to try to do something differently. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. The structure of this discussion, I don't want to have a lecture. I'd like to have discussion. I put some slides with some pictures and some foundations for food for thought. But at the same time, since I'm currently in Japan, we are part of a Tokyo Games legacy program, TIAS. And the vision of our program is to invest in the human resources of tomorrow. And the human resources of tomorrow are the students of today and those who are part of this program in India. Our vision and what we're trying to do over the next 3.5 hours that we have available for today's session will be to, no, it's only 20 minutes, okay. It will be to engage our students that have graduated from our program and that are from India and that are currently in India, to get their input on how we can help them and you all together to infuse the Olympic idea in society. Yes, so I will start with a short presentation. It's not allowing me to do that.
So I request all the aspirants, those who want to get into the different courses, because this is surely be very informative. So be ready with your copies and pen.
Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen now?
No, not now, not till yet. We can see you, but not your screen.
It's not happening now.
No. Raghav, can you hear us?
It's not allowing me to do that.
Hello, Raghav. Yes, Alexis, we can see this Scuba University, Olympism insignia. We can see your screen now.
Can you see the slide?
Yeah, we can see now, I think.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So yes, I cannot see you. I can see my slides in front.
No. Sorry, Alexis.
Yes.
Dr. Alexis, you simply have to. So we cannot see your video right now, Dr. Alexis. But that's fine, because I believe you will be presenting something, right? So all you have to do is at the bottom of your screen, in the interface that you see in front of you, you'll see an option called share screen. So if you click on the share screen option, you will have an application window tab, and then you'll be able to see your PowerPoint presentation within that application window section. And so once you click on it, you will be able to display your presentation to everyone who's watching right now. So if you could just try doing that.
Well, I'm doing that. It's not allowing me to share the screen, unfortunately.
Does it say something? Does it give you a message?
Pardon?
Does it give you a message, Dr. Alexis, when you click on it?
Yeah, and say share screen. It's okay, and it's not sharing the screen. No.
Okay. Understood. Maybe, Dr. Alexis, can you turn your video on? So your video is turned off right now. I can see your...
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
lovely. Beautiful. Beautiful. So we can see your face. Dr. Alexis, now, if you could just perhaps once again follow the steps that I'll describe to you. So when you click on share screen, right,
yes.
there'll be 3 tabs that you see. You'll see your entire screen, you'll see application window, and you'll see Chrome tab, right? If you have your PowerPoint presentation or your PDF presentation in the background, then you can simply go to application window. Once you go to application window, you click on that particular presentation that you want to be displayed. Once you click on that, then the share button, which will be grayed previously, will now turn to blue. And then you click on share, and then your presentation should be displayed.
I follow the steps. I did exactly what you mentioned. Can you see the slide now?
I do not see the slides.
No problem. Together we are going to make it. Just give a smile. Everything going to be good.
Yeah, not a problem. Dr. Alexis, you have your slides in front of you, and we can see your beautiful face. We can hear your beautiful voice. So you can describe everything using the slides in front of you, and I'm pretty sure the viewers will still find it immensely valuable.
Can we get offline and just connect the two of us to try to? I'll show you the screen so that you can walk you through this.
Right. And in fact, Dr. Malik, since we can't see the slides right now, this could be a beautiful opportunity for the both of you to have an interactive discussion as well as the presentation is going on. So feel free to have an interaction, as opposed to keeping it very rigid and structured. So up to you.
You actually, where we can see a foresight of the Indian Olympic Association, and especially this Indian Olympic Education Committee, those who have a great perspectives in their mind to encourage people to promote sports Olympism, Olympic education, Olympic movement, which is an essential part. Like today, Rijuji has spoken that he has successfully revised the university games, the youth games. Like after 30 years, there is a revival. So the Olympic movement, Olympic education, again, this is the right time to revive, and it is being revived in a beautiful manner. And definitely the consistent effort of Prashant Kushwaha under the dynamic leadership of Narendra Batra sir is going to bring the fruitfulness in the action, and they have created a very enthusiastic, committed team to promote Olympic education. So definitely when it comes to education policy, so actually the wrong mindset among the people are nowadays that the grounds are meant for the sports persons and sports education is only meant for the sports person. No, we all have anatomy, we all have physiology, we all need fitness, we all need well-beingness. So sports culture, and moreover knowing oneself, knowing yourself, not only mentally, emotionally, but once I am available about my inherent capacities and potentials, I can utilize in a better way. Clear? Like it is every time it is said, nobody can be an academician, everyone cannot be a engineer or doctor. So you have certain specific traits. So here the screen comes from Alexis. We can see. So I'm going to switch off.
Dr. Alexis, they don't call you magician for nothing. There's a reason they call you the magician. Look, you were able to produce the goods. Dr. Alexis, we can see your screen very clearly, very brightly now. Dr. Malik, I'll keep you on the front stage such that you can keep interacting if you have to. Dr. Alexis, the stage is set. You can present and I'll take a back seat now.
Thank you so much, Raghav.
Yes, ma'am.
Alexis, can you hear me? So the video comes and the topic Alexis has chosen is Humanity Restoration Games, Champions of Change of the 21st Century.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect, yes. It's apologies for the inconvenience. We've been having online screen sharing the last almost 2 months. And this new system, I don't know why this is not happening. Probably.
No problem.
Apologies for
your problem. No problem. Your apology has given me the opportunity.
So yes, so what we're trying to do today is we're going to have we're going to try to have a journey over time and see how we can put different pieces together to see what is the essence of the presentation today. And the topic of our discussion is Olympism and Olympic education to meet the challenges of the 21st century. As we speak, humanity and our generation is facing one of the biggest crises, global crisis of the pandemic. So we definitely we are called to find new ways and new solutions to our way forward. But as we have this journey, I think I'd like to start with our connection. And this journey is not just one presentation or one kind of conference that we're trying to put together. I think one of the basic foundations of Olympic values is to invest in relationships and in the human capital. And I'd like to go back into the last time that we met, which was and start going backwards. So basically, this is Dr. Malik at the wonderful, amazing conference that we organized together 2 years ago. And it was a great pleasure and honor to be hosted and trying to support and work together towards this shared vision. And during this 3-day conference that we've organized, you've organized in Chandigarh at your university, the Shabbat University, had a 3-day framework of aiming to see how we break down the different elements of the Olympic idea and make that relevant with development, with arts, with culture, with music, with peace building, and outcomes that empower the local community and address the local challenges. Of course, this is not without one-man show. It's a whole family and support team behind. And I'd like to extend my regards and my gratitude to the administration, but also Dr. Malik as well, for the friendship, but also for the support towards the shared vision. A vision that started back in 2013, and a vision that will not end in 2020. These are just pictures from the conference. And the main idea of this conference, which is similar to the topic of today's interaction, is how we make the Olympic education relevant to meet the challenges of the 21st century. And in order to achieve that, we have to create conferences, programs, interventions, programs for high school students, programs for young people, for old people, for the whole community to start reconceptualizing what the Olympic idea is and how this might be relevant in today's world. And these are just some pictures from the workshops. I think we had close to 1,000 participants across India. And these are just some pictures from colleagues that visited and supported this effort that came from India and Japan. And a dear friend who's no longer with us, but he's always with us and will always be with us in his spirit and his character and the legacy that he leaves behind, which is his students and his writings. I would like to go to this slide and emphasize that this is one of the students that will be joining us later today. Guido Sensei, the previous slide, and Aman. Aman is the last student that Guido Sensei mentored during the program that we have here in Japan at TIAS, and will be joining us later on to see how we can reflect on not just the Greek or the Cypriot or the Japanese version of the Olympic idea, but how this might be translated in the Indian context. One last slide that to make the whole cycle, close the cycle of how the one connects with the other, and it's a long-term commitment and friendship that needs to be embraced and cultivated throughout years. This relationship started back in ancient Olympia, and this is why we believe that connecting Olympic idea with the roots, with the origin, with the sources of inspiration and the heritage that goes back into ancient Hellenic civilization, Olympia, Athens, Delphi, and the cities and the heritage that actually embrace human innovation and progress. I think once you start connecting and building friendships at the roots of the end of where the Olympic idea was created, you create something very dynamic and very powerful that lasts for years and years. So back into 2020, I would like to, as you all know, the Olympic Games were postponed, and I would like to give some background information that the Olympic Games in Tokyo were given to Tokyo because part of the successful bid for hosting the Tokyo Games were not just because Tokyo is an amazing country, it has amazing heritage, culture, infrastructure, technology, innovation. The main idea of why the decision was made, which gave the competitive advantage for the Olympic Committee to give the Tokyo Games in Japan, was few years, 2 years late after the big earthquake and the tsunami, which was an amazing disaster that even today, 10 years after the disaster, there are many people that still live in temporary housing and still work to see how they can recover. But what's very unique and part of the bidding process was that we need, as Japan, the Olympic Games, because through the Olympic Games, we will be able to restore and recover humanity, recover communities, and with this revival and restoration of the essence of the Olympic idea, which is not just about the games, but it's about communities and resilient communities, and how we recover from man-made and natural disasters, would be a great message to the world. And this was not just concentrated in the Japanese context, but actually Japan had a very strong commitment to expand the impact and the outreach of the Olympic idea and the momentum of the Olympic Games to address local challenges. And the challenges we face today are not just about the games, it's not just about earthquakes. We are faced with one of the biggest humanitarian crises in refugees. We also talk about a big crisis with integrity of sport, hooliganism, doping. So these are challenges that cannot be addressed just with one program, one initiative. It takes a lot of effort and many agencies to come together to see how they can find creative solutions to address these challenges. So for that purpose, once Tokyo was awarded the Games, Sport for Tomorrow was created, which is a consortium of many agencies from Japan. And the main vision is to see how we move from the ideal of what we promised into action, into praxis. And for that purpose, the vision and the structure of this consortium was to create three different arms. The one is to create a structure that will promote programs, initiatives that would tackle and find solutions to the big problem that of doping in sport. The other was to promote outside sport cooperation and in and through sport cooperation, international development, and for that purpose, create an academy to an academic arm where we can advance the Olympic idea and provide a master's, a graduate program of Olympic studies where we will try to teach and train the leaders of tomorrow. So which is where I speak right now. This is space and infrastructure that was built for the Tokyo Games, the Tsukuba International Academy of Sport. And this was the initial structure and the vision of Tokyo's contribution to the world. Up to reality, if we go back into March 12th of March of 2020, was the lighting ceremony for the games, and the first day that it was announced that we had a global pandemic. So at the same time where the Olympic flame was up and running, the same day everything was gradually shutting down, and we come back to the postponement of the Modern Olympic Games, the 2020 Olympic Games, and that will still hopefully everybody will be sound and safe and recover for the big crisis, and see how we can have wonderful Olympic Games in 2021, but continue the vision which expands and goes beyond athletic competition, but actually address challenges for humanity. I have a short video. I hope we will be able to see it. Very short video. Can you see it?
When Tokyo was chosen to host the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2020, we made a promise to share the value of sport throughout the world.
Sport is a very powerful tool for human being. It's a very powerful tool for changing the lives of people.
Sport for Tomorrow. For the 7 years starting in 2014, we have delivered the value of sport to more than 10 million people in over 200 countries and regions by conducting over 5,500 programs, focusing on the developing countries and regions.
In sport, in judo, I played judo.
The Olympic was there.
อนาคตหนูอยากเป็นนักวิ่งทีมชาติไทยค่ะ
I really think sport can bring people together.
My vision is to bring back the respect and unity that sport combines within sport.
The value of sport, which Sport for Tomorrow has provided, will be passed on to different countries, regions, and communities around the world in many different ways, all for a better future.
So this captures, that's a short version of Sport for Tomorrow's work, and there's more information on their website, Sport for Tomorrow, longer version of videos and resources, reports, and many resources that might be useful to anybody who might be interested to explore opportunities for collaboration with Sport for Tomorrow and beyond. But as we move to the next slide, I think reality, hope we'll be able to move to the next slide. Okay. The challenges in 2020 and after 2020 will not go away, whether we have the Olympic Games in 20, in 21, in 22, or after the Games in Tokyo. These challenges are very current. And I think it's our responsibility to see how we reconceptualize what we all call about the power of sport, or the Olympic Games, how we conceptualize the actual impact of the Olympic idea in societies, not just by belief, not just by dogma, but actually by evidence. What we truly learn in the global pandemic world of 2020 is that our days and the solutions that we need in today's challenges is not just dogmas or just beliefs or just perceptions. We need evidence, we need science to inform our decisions, and education and science should guide our way forward. Definitely we cannot continue the way we've been going on and on and on and on the last years. And we definitely need to reconceptualize and start doing things differently. So when we have the main topic of the challenges of the Olympics or Olympic education in the 21st century, my perception, my understanding through my experience over the last 30 years from the field, but also through academic teaching of Olympic education and development and peace building in regions of conflict and in communities in need, definitely what we need to address to gain more credibility, and with more credibility and with more science, we'll be able to advance and leverage the actual impact of the Olympian heritage in societies. One of the challenges is the Olympic divide that exists between the la-la land and reality. How we move from ideas into actions, how we move beyond what we call, okay, we learn the values, internalize the values, but how we create structures, processes, and systems that are infused in everyday life and across the world. So the actual impact, in my belief, is not fully optimized because of this divide. And part of the problem is because that we lost the meaning of the Olympic idea, and the meaning, and it was lost in time and translation. And many times the word Olympism, if we go back into the origins, okay, let's go back to the charter, Olympic charter, or I'm sure I've attended some of the presentations before. There's a very clear definition of what Olympism is. But the thing is that how we comprehend, how we transfer that, not just from idea, but actually in programs that will benefit our local community. And the main idea is not to use the word Olympic, or not to use the actual Olympia or Delphi or Athens or any Hellenic. The main idea, how you conceptualize and understand the elements and the components that are integrated in this heritage and make that relevant to the local context. Part of the problem, and that was also addressed with our friend and colleague, Dr. Arnaud Richard, from the previous presentation, we need to acknowledge Pierre de Coubertin's contribution. But I think it's very important, and it's our duty as academia, because as academics, we have to have a critical lens about where does Olympic heritage or Olympic history begin? Is there continuation? Are there other people that have contributed to sustain and to revive this idea, this civilization that goes beyond one person? My belief, we need to reconceptualize and regroup and put all pieces together and give credit to those who have contributed before and after Coubertin. The adaptation of these challenges to our world, I think it's very important it's very important to move to the classroom and draw the cycles, the rings, talk about the la-la land and everything and the values, but it's very important to see how we go out into communities in need. I heard before Dr. Phyllis, he mentioned, yes, let's go in Korea. Let's see how we help Pakistan. Let's go to India. Let's go where the problem is and transform communities. Instead of preaching ideas, let's use this framework into changing communities. It cannot happen overnight. It requires a long-term commitment, a lot of energy, academia to be involved, training, programming, and different bodies of knowledge that need to be introduced. Traditionally, most of the sport programs up to date are not so familiar with bodies of knowledge of human development and conflict resolution and sustainable development. Recently, there's been connection with sport for development, and all this is a nice and sexy and attractive topic. Many people engage into theorizing and practicing Olympic sport for development or Olympic values, but I think in order to optimize the actual impact of this Olympian heritage and the power of sport, we need to infuse theory, science, and practice in our everyday life. The last problem that I just skipped, as you can see, is that there's no continuation. There's a big promise. Okay, London, we said we're going to do this, but after 2012, where is London? Rio promised X, Y, and Z, but after Rio is gone. What are the things that they have promised to get the Olympic Games? So I think we have to have critical lens and not to be negative. Definitely the stronger asset, the biggest asset that we have, the number one principle of Olympic education is about critical thinking, dialogue, and democracy. So advancing the academic critical aspect of the impact of the Olympic idea in society is our duty to preserve this heritage to the next generations. So I don't want to be too heavy. I want to put the problem in three pictures. I think we have to go back into the origins of Olympia, Olympian heritage, and the words that have lost their meaning over time, and try to build the bridge between the La La Land and reality. How we do that? Definitely we go back into the Olympic Charter. It's very clearly defined. I'm sure that at least 3-4 other colleagues mentioned that before. I'm not going to go through that. There's a reference and a clear definition about what that is. So my work, my academic journey started in early 2000, and the first thing I started doing is try to conceptualize and operationalize this in how we get these concepts of Olympics. We talk about sport, education, and culture. We talk about impact and peace building and development. We think about design and delivery programs, and we need to be able to have evidence how to design and deliver. So in order to do that, we need to start providing bodies of knowledge and evidence on how we can have two things. How can we have positive impact on a number of human development and peace building indicators with evidence, not just by belief, and at the same time, make sure that we identify all the characteristics and the components and the elements that lead to those positive outcomes. I've been using the term of using Olympism as social medicine that will be able to do diagnostic first, write the prescription, but actually by evidence, measure the actual impact of the patient and the problem, and drive your decisions based on evidence. So on a number of what I've been trying to do, that was part of my PhD, and this is what I've been doing the last close to 20 years. I tried to identify those elements and the components like a prescription on how we can ensure positive impact in communities in need, on a number of indicators. I'm not going to go through theories. I'll just very briefly, just to give the outline, but it takes years to establish good body of knowledge, to establish evidence on how things work. We got the global pandemic, and we say we need at least a year or two to be able to say, okay, with clinical trials and by evidence, this is the vaccine for the virus. So in the same way, we need to have evidence on what is the antivirus that we need to give to societies, structures, programs, minds, hearts, and communities to transform them in creative communities. Visually, this is how Olympics for Humanity and the cycle of Olympics for Humanity praxis model should be applied. But this is based on the ancient Hellenic foundation, civilization. So the first principle of conflict resolution came before Alport, the contact theory, of the oracle in Delphi. This is the model said, you know what, in order to resolve the challenges of humanity, of war and disease and all the challenges, we need to bring people together, as you see on the right. You need to bring people together, contact theory, so that through contact, and these are the three wheels that you can see are the three main values, that through contact, you'll be able to, instead of killing each other, start regulating aggression, start competing with respect, that gradually you build relationships, you provide excellence in the sport arena and in other aspects of life, and promote innovation across cities. So on the triangle, as you see, was not just sport itself. It was a combination of athletic contests for wisdom, scientific minds, questioning mind, dialogue, and arts, listening to your muses and let the muses and the creative aspect and the aesthetical aspect of self guide your growth, but at the same time channel and manifest the aggression, the lower instincts of the humankind into creative solutions and what is also called as craftsmanship. So find my own gifts and talents and translate that into actions. So this is a theoretical model that I've been trying to establish back in early 2000. There was no theory related with peace building and development. So everything I've been trying to do is based on humanistic psychology, social psychology, with an end goal on creating democratic, creative citizens and communities. In a nutshell, how do we translate this theory in a program? So I've been designing and delivering programs since 2005 in sport since 1991. The model I've been using, which is the reflection of sport for development theory and the reflection of Olympics for Humanity praxis, entails Olympic education, which is synonymous with human development and global citizenship. So how we break it down in elements and topics, I think these are topics that what I'd like to call as VIPs that are universal and address every human being on this planet. At least that's what I think. In order to achieve that, then we need to start not just emphasizing the Olympic Games during the Olympic Games, but support all the efforts by IOC, organizing committees, national Olympic committees, academia. I truly believe that academia has significant responsibility and role to play in the advancement of Olympics in society. And once I came to Japan, my first effort was not to go to the Olympic Games in Rio, but actually I started the day one, going to Sao Paulo, connecting with academia. This is Sanada Sensei, with other colleagues, going to Sao Paulo and meeting other friends and engaging the academia and engaging students and trying to see how we create a global network, Olympics for Humanity Alliance, and a network of professors and students that are committed into the Olympic idea, but not just for an idea, but actually be trained to become a champion of change of today, of tomorrow, but today. So this takes us back into Tsukuba. This is a picture from the University of Tsukuba. This is a field trip. Our program is a master's program in Olympic Studies and Sport. And part of our program, we try to integrate sport management with coaching, with Olympic and Paralympic education, with ethics, with anti-doping, with Japanese culture, but at the same time, go where the problem is. So not just talk the talk, but walk the talk. So this is just one picture from our visit in Rixen Takata, and where it was the most devastating hit from tsunami. As we speak, 10 years after the disaster, there are people that still face many problems. The Japanese people are very strong, very resilient. They don't talk about it, but I think it's very important. We have to learn from it. And yes, it's very important to celebrate the Olympic idea, the Olympic Games, but I think part of our training is to expose all students, young, old, professors, policymakers, not just in cheerleading the Olympic La La Land, but actually becoming champions of change of the challenges that they face in the local communities. To achieve that, as I mentioned before, part of the problem after the 2020, I don't know how things will be here in Japan. What I've been trying to do with a number of colleagues, with Sanada Sensei, the chairman of our program, and everybody we've been working with and talking with over the last 4 years, with Dr. Malik, with Niraj, with Dev Shabazz University that we signed MOUs, with Paris 24 and my colleague, Dr. Arnaud Richard, that we visited recently, and we've been interacting to move beyond into this one-night stand of the big promises of the Olympic Games, that there's no continuation after the day is over, after the show is gone. So for this vision, and we in close contact and discussion to see how we can create a long-term sustainable academic legacy. I truly believe that we need to go back into academia. We need to back to retrain the future professors that engage with Olympic studies, not only about performance in sport, but actually about performance in humanathlon. So resolving challenges and being able to be champions of change in their respective communities. So the main idea is to create humanity restoration games. How to achieve that is a long discussion. Probably we need 2, 3, 4 days to just discuss and analyze. But very briefly, I would like to give very basic assumptions that because perception and understanding defines the way we practice, whatever we practice. So going back into what the Olympic idea is, we have to first start that the most important thing is to conceptualize that the Olympic heritage and the Olympic idea, or the Olympian idea, is about urban design, about cities, how we construct, design cities and citizens that are creating a civilization that we need to remember. And in order to achieve that, yes? Yes?
Sorry for the interruption. As we are short with the time, you have to just speed up the pace to wind up your session, because we have certain questions as well as we have the interactions from the students. Thank you so much.
I thought we had 10 more minutes, but actually I'm done in 2 slides. So the one slide was that to conceptualize that this is part of a city and this is ancient Olympia. Go back to Jigoro Kano, this is from Tsukuba. So it's not just about Greece, but actually in the Hellenic civilization, there are people like Jigoro Kano, who was the president of our university for 23 years, but also go back into the teachings and to the heritage that was lost in time and translation. So in order to do that, we need to start with a very basic question, and I'll stop with this. How we move from content carriers into context changers? And this is the challenge that we are all called to not just talk about, but actually do something about it. And I will pass it on to finding solutions to bridge the divide between the ideal and reality. So I would like to stop here and open and invite our students. How do I just a minute?
Thank you so much for empowering us and for showing the light on the title you have opted for. That is Humanity Restoration Games and Champions of Change in the 21st century. So thank you. I can read the messages here on the screen. The many appreciations regarding this session is a very wonderful session, very informative, very elaborative. Some of the people are interested to know about the courses available, what is the fee structure, what is the eligibility criteria, and what are the future perspectives. If they want to secure their future in these lines.
There's interruption. I didn't hear. Sorry.
I think you should give answers. The public can have a better view. So let me introduce those who are behind the screen, named as Aman Shah, Dandapani, Ravi Pandit, and Manika. These all welcome you all. So these all are see the smile on Alexis' face. It is good to see your students because they are the reflections of yours. And teaching is a worldwide tree. So here they have gone from India to your country to bring the lessons how to spread humanity, how to promote Olympism, how to promote Olympic education, how they can be the career of peace building, as well as how the sustainable development through these active resource persons can bring into the existence. So I would like to inform all the viewers here that they are and sports graduates from University of Scuba TIAS, a 2020 Games Legacy Program. They are the human resources and wealth of India. I really love this term, the wealth of India. Yes. The vision of TIAS is to invent in future leaders of tomorrow's with scholarship, revived by the government present and get trained in Olympism, Olympic education, and the main theme of the presentation and discussion from these participants is how Olympism is about investment in humanity, human capital, and the relationship and purpose-driven individuals, champions of the change. So I think we should already met in the international conference. So we'd love to hear you.
Thank you for joining Pani and Aman. Can you unmute your voice? Ravi is not doing.
Great to be here. Good to see you, Dr. Alexis, Dr. Malik. Thank you for having us.
It's great to see you again.
Same here.
So yeah, I wanted to just use some time.
Aman, please start up with your presentation. You have 2 minutes of time.
Yes. The floor is yours.
No, I think we were having a conversation, right?
Yes, just I wanted to include instead of sharing their insights. So sharing their insights about their experience in Japan and how this is relevant in the Indian context. Aman, did you have a presentation or just share?
No. We were just going to have a chat. That's what I was.
Please start.
Yes, Aman.
Sure.
We have about 2 to 3 minutes, Aman. But feel free to put forth your comments, your questions, and feel free to have a chat with Dr. Alexis.
Sure. Thanks, Anubhav. So no, I mean it's great to have this platform to have this conversation, and it's always good to see Dr. Alexis. We've spent quite a lot of time together, and I think he mentioned Dr. Guido Geisler, a former professor of mine who's also been very instrumental. I think from my perspective, it was a great experience to be part of the Sport for Tomorrow legacy program. I think it's very important when we talk about concepts like human capital and the legacy of Olympics and the Olympic Games and the philosophy of Olympism to really understand what it actually means. And I think it's something that I did not maybe have that much of an awareness of before I went to Japan. So I was fortunate enough that I got the opportunity to go to the University of Tsukuba in 2016 and study the master's program in Olympic studies. And I think now after coming back, I'm still very, very invested and working with the organization that I'm currently involved with, which is the Inspire Institute of Sport, to help actually build up the Olympic movement in India, help work with elite athletes as well as junior athletes to really help them understand what exactly the Olympic movement is all about. And one of the things that I think in India we lack an understanding of is that for us the Olympics is just something that happens once every 4 years. But I think it's something that India's only Olympic gold medalist Abhinav Bindra has said very well, is that it's not every 4 years, it's every day. And I think that's the spirit of the Olympic movement and of Olympism that I think is important for us to really look at inculcating in the Indian body of knowledge. And I think through organizations and platforms like this, we have a great opportunity. Our Honorable Sports Minister has set a very ambitious target of saying that India should be in the top 10 countries on the Olympic medals table by 2028 in LA. I think it's a brilliant opportunity for us to capitalize on that, and we should be in the top 10 not only in the medals but also in initiating conversations about concepts like the Olympic movement and really building up humanity through the power of sport.
Excellent, Aman. Excellent, Aman.
Thank you
And
so much
concluding remarks
for
from
giving us
Dr. Alexis, from our moderator, from others present. We will be starting the next session in about a couple of minutes, but we have time for concluding remarks from everyone.
I would like to give the floor for Pani to give you your input as well.
Thank you.
For the close. Yes.
Just Pani, in 1 minute you have to conclude. Come on.
Good evening to everyone, and it's a pleasure to attend this conference. And actually, I joined the program in 2018, and I finished the graduation in March 2020. And actually, it was a good experience, as Mr. Aman said. Dr. Guido Geisler was my supervisor. And actually, before that, I was not much aware about the Olympism and Olympic values, Olympic education program. But after this program, I came to know about the purpose and process of Olympism and Olympic values and importance of the Olympic value education program. Right now, I'm working in the Sports Authority of India as Deputy Director. So with this knowledge, I think I can contribute for the development and implementation of the Olympic education program, as well as in my capacity, whatever I can do. Yeah, thank you.
So I have to apologize because I think part of the delay was my incompetence with technology and the software. I'd like to say a big thank you. And this is not just the end of this discussion. This is only the beginning of. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Abhinav.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Are you saying something? You might be stuck right now. But that concludes this session. As Dr. Alexis pointed out, this is not the end. This is just the beginning, because we have day 2 of this webinar on our One Play Sports platforms tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. Indian Standard Time. But we have another session left before we conclude proceedings for the day, and the next session will be moderated by Miss Shalini Vij, who's the founder and director of Sculpting Mentors LLP. She's a skill and performance enhancement trainer and mind coach here in India. And Mrs. Shalini Vij will give you more of an idea about what the topic is that will be discussed, as well as more information about the speaker that we have lined up, who will be gracing us for the session on a One Play Sports Networks. Mrs. Shalini Vij, all yours.
Thank you so much, Anubhav. Thanks a lot. I hope I'm audible clearly.
You're very clearly audible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So I would just like to share my screen to start a very, very brief presentation to welcome the speaker and also to welcome our guest over here as well. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, ma'am. I'm guessing you clicked on share screen at the bottom.
Yes, I did that.
I don't see it as yet. So once you click on share screen, then you will be able to see an option called application window. You click on application window, and then you'll be able to see the presentation that you have. You click on that presentation, and then the share screen button at the bottom will change from gray to blue. Once it changes to blue, you should be able to click on it, and your presentation will be broadcast on this platform.
All right, perfectly all right. So I hope is it visible now?
Not yet, ma'am. What do you? Okay, I think it's coming up. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's up. We have the speaker as well on the screen. But Ms. Vij, over to you for this presentation, which will introduce the speaker.
All right. Thank you so much, Anubhav. And a very, very good evening to all the participants and viewers, and a warm greetings to everyone. And especially the representatives from National Sports Federation, National Olympic Committee, which includes Indian Olympic Association, athletes, coaches, researchers, government officials, diplomats, administrators, corporate media, non-government organization, and all the public, all the viewers in large. So I would like to thank the organizers for organizing this international webinar on Olympism and Olympic education in 21st century. So it is really a great platform, and I feel privileged to be hosting this particular session. So very quickly, let me introduce the speakers for today's session. Her name is Ms. Vita Balstya, and she's basically the Director of Olympic Education. So Ms. Vita has been responsible for Olympic education at the National Olympic Committee of Lithuania for the past 8 years. She oversees educational programs and projects that disseminate Olympic values, build communities, promote physical activity, and encourage youth leadership through sport. Also, to add on, she received a master's degree in Olympic Studies, Olympic Education, Organization and Management of Olympic Events at the University of Philippines, and the bachelor degrees in Economics. She also graduated from the Executive Masters of Sport Organizations Management and was awarded with the Alberto Medela Trophy for her project, which is called A Framework for a Sustainable Olympic Education Program. Now, to end my note with other accolades of her, she is the member of the Lithuanian NOC Olympic Education Commission, council member at Lithuanian Olympic Academy, also the Secretary General of Lithuanian Fair Play Committee, NOC's Culture and Education Champions Network. So in the end, I would like to add that Olympic Education Department at the Lithuanian National Olympic Committee organizes a number of programs and projects on the promotion of physical activity, values education through sport, and youth leadership through sport. So I want to thank you all in advance, all the viewers, all the listeners in advance for taking an initiative, for your active participation by having an enriching and enlightening experience with us. So let me give a warm welcome to our speaker, Ms. Vita Balste. A very, very good evening to you, ma'am, and all to you. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Thank you so much for this amazing introduction. And thank you for inviting me to speak here today. It's a great honor to speak at this international webinar, and I really congratulate the Indian Olympic Association and Indian Olympic Education Committee for organizing this event. I'm very excited to send my best greetings from the small Lithuanian country to big India in the terms probably of inhabitants and the size of the countries. And I'm very excited to share my thoughts and ideas today.
Thank you.
I will try and share my screen. I saw that some of the other people had some issues with that, so I will just take my time to share my screen. In the meantime, I will just like to talk a little bit about my presentation today and what will it look like. So at the very beginning, as you have seen that we have done quite a lot of activities.
I think we may have lost Vita there, but I'm pretty sure it's just a temporary occurrence, and Vita should be back any second. I don't see her in the backstages yet, but as soon as I see her in the backstage, then I'll be sure to add her to the front stage such that she can actually continue from where she left off. But Miss Vij, why don't we perhaps, in fact, I think she's back. She's back. Let me just quickly add her. Hopefully everything is fine.
I'm sorry,
Yes, Vita,
I got
we lost you
because of the-
temporarily. You gave us a mini heart attack there. Go on.
Well, I knew I would be back, so I will just try and get my screen on.
Yes. And let me know in case you're facing any issues, but you simply click on the share screen button that you see there. You have the application window tab. You select whatever your presentation is, and then you click on share again, and then we should be able to see whatever you're projecting on your screen.
Yeah. I mean, it's there, but it gets lost. How could this be? Now. Yes. Yeah. I try and click on my window, but it disappears.
Do you, so is this a PowerPoint presentation that you're using? Is this a PDF file?
No, that's Keynote.
Okay. And you have it open in your background, right? On your computer?
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. And are you looking at the application window tab? Because it should appear under your application window tab, ma'am.
Yes. I'm looking there now. It's kind of empty. Okay.
Because yeah, as long as you have it open in your application window, as long as you have it open in somewhere in your computer, then you should see it appear under application window, and then you simply click on it, and once you've clicked on it, then the share button at the bottom will change from gray to blue, which means that you can share whatever you've selected, and then it should appear.
And it doesn't.
What exactly are you seeing on your screen, ma'am? That
Well,
might provide clarity to me.
Everything kind of works well until I turn on application window, and I see only the StreamYard link that I can share my screen. And it doesn't somehow show me anymore my presentation.
Understood.
Although
Do you have your presentation open as a Google Chrome tab? Is it a tab where you have your presentation open?
No, it's like a separate app, so it goes separately.
Okay, and this is not a computer app. It's I'm guessing it's a document or a file, right?
Yes.
Understood. Then that's slightly strange. Then it should appear under application window. Maybe what you could do is, as a last thought, you could simply exit out of the presentation, the keynote that you were talking about. You could restart it. You could open it up again. If you still don't see it under application window, then I'm pretty sure we can still carry on without quite seeing the presentation, and you can comprehensively describe whatever you're seeing on your screens that the viewers might not be able to see, but I'm pretty sure they will be able to understand based on whatever you describe to them.
Okay, let's try and do that. In the meantime, then I will still maybe continue talking so that I don't waste our time.
Absolutely, ma'am. The stage is yours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Lithuania National Olympic Committee has been working on Olympic education for quite a lot of years. As you have seen in the kind introduction, I have been doing this for the 8 years. And it has been a very important topic for me. So I believe that every National Olympic Committee, every National Olympic Academy, and any kind of similar Olympic organization should be working with the Olympic values education, because it's important not only for us as organizations. It's not only the mission of the National Olympic Committees, but it is also sport is an amazing tool. And education and the values, and teaching values education, it's not an easy thing. Okay, I think I will continue without the presentation because I just cannot open it up. So therefore, I will be talking without the slides, but I will obviously present my ideas, and I'm very encouraging other viewers to give me some questions and to share their ideas. So talking about the National Olympic Committee, it was reestablished in 1988, so it's only a bit more than 30 years that the National Olympic Committee is present in Lithuania. And in the recent years, we have worked a lot on Olympic education. We believe that our mission is not only to inspire Olympians in sports, but also to inspire Olympians in life. And this is a very important thing, and I really want to stress that out. We believe that Olympism and Olympic movement, it is for every person. It's not only for an athlete, it's not only for a physically active person. It can send a message to every person. So why is it important why is Olympic education important for the Lithuanian National Olympic Committee? It is a strategic area of our NOC, and it has been stated quite clearly. What is more, we have a separate department of Olympic education that is working, and we have several people working in that department and actually dedicating all of their time to Olympic values education. And also, I think it is important to stress that Olympic education and our Olympic Committee has a strong support from the leadership. If you do not have a strong support for your leadership, it might be difficult to deliver the programs, to spread your ideas, to share your ideas. And we have this opportunity, which is usually, well, pretty amazing, I would say. So how does it work? What approach towards Olympic education do we have? So we believe that Olympic education is a tool for the society, to solve the challenges of the society. And I saw some presentations before, and I saw how these presentations worked very well. And they also mentioned the same things. It also the mission of the National Olympic Committee, and it also is stated in the Olympic Charter that every National Olympic Committee has to promote Olympic education. And we believe that our mission is to show people, to show our society what sport is, what Olympism is, that it is physical activity, but it's so much more. And through our Olympic education strategy, we have identified 3 priorities. So that is the promotion of physical activity and sport, to tackle the inactivity in the society and prioritize in this sense children and youth, education through sport, promoting sport as a tool for development and dissemination of Olympic values and principles, and also dissemination of Olympism, to get the society understand what actually Olympic movement is and what is it about. It's not, we all love and enjoy the Olympic Games every 4 years or every 2 years, but Olympic movement actually is alive for the whole quadrennial. So it never stops, and it does amazing things, and I think that we have to really talk about that. When we talk about the Olympic education, quite oftenly I like to use the quote of the founding father of the Olympic movement, Pierre de Coubertin, who said that the future of our civilization does not rest on political or economic foundations, but it wholly depends on the direction given to education. So that it is very important for every National Olympic Committee to understand and to see what kind of direction they want to give and what kind of added value they want to give to their communities, what values do they want to promote and send. And then we can talk about the Olympic values. So there's 3 values: excellence, friendship, and respect. And all these 3 values, these are universal values. So it has actually, these are applicable and these are important values to every person around the world. I think this is this is the beauty of the Olympic movement, that it can really unite in different terms, in different situations. It can unite all of the people in the world. So when we talk about the Olympic values, excellence, which means doing your best, being in the field, considering the field of play or considering your professional life. That understanding that important thing is not winning, but taking part and making progress and enjoying the process, and understanding that that combination of body, will, and mind that the Olympic movement sends, this message that the Olympic movement sends. And then respect. When we think about respect, obviously we talk about the respect for yourself, for your body, for people around you, for the environment. And we have so many concerns nowadays with climate change, with COVID-19 and other things that are happening around the world, that it is a crucial value for every person. And then we talk about friendship, which is at the heart of the Olympic movement, which it encourages us to see sport as an instrument for a mutual understanding between individuals and between the people around the world. So these are the messages that we send through sport, because we believe that sport is that tool that unites people, that unites more than anything else in this world. And actually, I was very happy to see that this webinar was called, and it is circles around the 21st century education, because now everybody talks about 21st century competencies, such as creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration or civic literacy, communication, and becoming a self-directed learner. So there's a lot of different sets of competencies that we think that children and youth that they have to have, that we are required to have them for our working environment, for our personal contacts with people. How do you get them? How do you get those competencies? This is the big question. And yesterday I was watching the panel about this webinar, and then I was reading some articles also online, and everybody says that today this is the time when we are facing such challenges as a pandemic. We have to think about education in a different way, because we have those skills, the traditional skills that we get through the educational system, but there's just so many requirements that kids have to have, or the knowledge that they have to have. We sometimes forget about those 21st century competencies, and when we do trainings for educators, we always ask them, do you think that you teach those things? Do you think that during in your traditional classroom settings, does this really happen? most of the times the answer is, well, not all of the time. So in these days when children really have to be resilient, they have to understand some difficult things, like that they have to spend 3 months at home without any probably possibility to have a lot of physical activity or interact with their friends. They have to have a lot of different skills. And how do we get them? How do they get them? A year ago, well, every year, the National Olympic Committee of Lithuania, we organize this Olympic Education Forum where we gather about 500 educators from all over the world, not all over the world, but all over Lithuania. And we talk on different topics that are important for Olympic education. And last year, our topic was on 21st century competencies and education in the 21st century. So one of the speakers, he said a very interesting idea that I kept with me for quite some time. He said that, you know, all of these competencies that we require people to have, we think that probably there's like a small percentage of people that naturally have some competencies. Like we all know some people that are naturally amazing at communication, or they're great at critical thinking. Maybe they learn that in different environments, but the majority of people, we really have to learn those. So is it through the kindergarten, through the school years, university? We actually really have to learn them. So how do you do that? And my answer for that is physical activity and sport. This is the tool that really, when we look into all of those competencies, you can actually handpick in which different situations in the sporting field, during a tournament, during a competition, or during a training session, where that kid or a young person can learn things. And again, my answer is sport. So how do we teach them? Because sport, in general, it gives us physical activity, it gives us health, it keeps us active. We have this good feeling after we do sport. But how do we learn those skills and competencies, and how do we learn the values that I was mentioning before? This depends on the educator. And for probably the second part of my presentation, I will talk more about the educator and the role of the educator, because he or she is that person who works with the kids. Whether it's a teacher, whether it's a coach, the grown-up actually helps the child to understand the situations, to reflect upon them, to learn things. And sport gives us the environment. That's why at the National Olympic Committee of Lithuania, we took this opportunity that the International Olympic Committee actually gives to all of the National Olympic Committees and other organizations. In 2016, they developed the Olympic Values Education Program. And we took the manuals, we took the program, and we decided that we want to bring it to Lithuania, and we want to implement it. We want to work with educators on the program and help them deliver the program to the youth. And this is where the work with the OVEP started. And OVEP is that tool that says that learning is an active and not passive activity. That it's not that learning can come through different forms, whether it's speaking or listening, whether that's play and discussion and debate. And the Olympic Values Education Program offers some activities that are based on that. And learning is both individual and collaborative. So that means that we all have to learn from time to time how to work individually and how to collaborate with others. And this is important for children and youth for the time being, but also for when they grow up. And I talked before about the core Olympic values and the Olympic Values Education Program. It gives us the manuals that we can work with, but it also gives us the educational themes, which are the joy of effort, fair play, practicing respect, pursuit of excellence, and balance between body, will, and mind. So different activities that are on the Olympic Values Education Program, on the manuals, are designed to help develop those values, to teach those values. And we always and what also, of course, the Olympic Values Education Program says is that for every activity that you choose, you can take the educational theme, but also you have to add some physical activity, because kids have to be physically active. When we think that the World Health Organization has that recommendation that every child has to be active for at least 60 minutes per day, and then we think about our educational systems, probably there is a discrepancy, because the kids might not have the opportunities to be physically active for 60 minutes a day. Therefore, for the Olympic Values Education Program, we encourage not only physical education teachers, but also other subject teachers to use the Olympic Values Education Program and to make that learning more active. And we all know the scientists, the researchers have identified that physical activity helps learning. It helps us to learn things better. It helps us to understand the concepts better. So therefore, we say that the Olympic Values Education Program is a program for every teacher. And then they can educate that in different ways. So through our different trainings, we offer teachers opportunities to learn on how to train things, how to disseminate the Olympic values. So we encourage them to choose a topic while in the classroom, to show that some activities in the non-formal education practice, to use Olympic Values Education Program when they feel like in the classroom they have some issue or a challenge, to approach a difficult question, or to discuss an issue within the society. For instance, nowadays that could be climate change, or to work with marginalized youth. So again, I just want to stress that the Olympic Values Education Program, it starts from physical education teachers, because there are some people who are, or educators who are not very familiar with physical activity or sport. They think, well, this is for physical education teachers. But we actually bring that to all of the teachers, and then they find ways to actually promote Olympic values and to use physical activity in their classroom settings, which is very rewarding for teachers and also for kids. So talking about the Olympic Values Education Program in Lithuania, if you have a chance or opportunity, I really encourage you to download the manuals from the International Olympic Committee website, and just to go through them and see what opportunities the manuals offer. So at our NOC, we decided that we had to translate the manuals into Lithuanian language so that it could be, every educator could actually use them. And then we thought that, well, we should have some introductory courses, because the manuals, they're created for all over the world, and to adapt that to our local realities, to our local situations, to our local environment and the educational system, we have to give some kind of sort of training to the educators. So we decided to train 20 educators who could go around the country and deliver the introductory of a course, and give the manuals to educators so that they could work with them in the future. And we were discussing who could do that, who could deliver those programs, because you have to have experts, or you have to have people that educators will listen to, or they will try and work with them. And then we decided, and we gathered this group of 20 teachers of different subjects from the whole country, whom we trained, and then they delivered the Olympic Values Education Program introductory trainings to the wider amount of educators. So our trainers in the Train the Trainers program, they had 56 hours of competence development training, and then 16 hours of facilitated practice where they practiced their activities. And then they went around the country and delivered, in the past 1.5 years, delivered about 26 trainings for around 700 educators. If you want to compare numbers, Lithuania has around 3 million inhabitants. So for us, this number is quite big. And the introductory course, it helps us to work with the educators and to help them understand what is Olympism, help them understand how they could adapt that into their curriculum and add that into their curriculum. And I would show you a video, but probably I will add later a link to the way our trainings look like and how do we do them. The very important thing is that we always say that it is important that an educator and then later a pupil would have a sport experience, that they would have some kind of experience, they would have some kind of, in a different setting, they would have an experience, and then they would have an opportunity to reflect on that, which is very important while talking about values education. And then after we did this, we thought, okay, we have 20 trainers, then we have around 700 educators who have been trained, and they inform us on how they're using the Olympic Values Education program. But we feel that educators still have a number of challenges. So we delivered and developed a level 2 training on Olympic Values Education, where already educators can come, the ones who have already attended the introductory course, they can attend this 3-day course, and then they actually go deeper into a lot of topics like educational themes. They analyze the difficult cases that they have when they use the Olympic Values Education program. They consulted each other and also worked on their reflection, because we find it very important. And this is how we kind of build the community of educators who are excited, who are inspired by the Olympic values, and they want to disseminate them. I have to mention that all of the trainings that we do at the National Olympic Committee and in Lithuania, they are for free. So educators do not have to pay for anything. We have the system that we can send the trainers to some schools in the country. So that means the financial issue is not, well, we do not have that. They do not have that financial issue. So if the people are willing to be trained and they're willing to use the Olympic Values Education program, we deliver that to them. So after several years of experience and work on the initiatives that we have done, we gathered for twice already, actually. We gathered European Olympic committees and Olympic academies, and we had some joint trainings for a week-long trainings where we delivered our experience and where we created an opportunity, an environment for other people from around Europe to share their experiences while working with the Olympic Values Education program, or while trying or willing to start working with the program. So that was an actually very useful experience, because we cannot stress enough the importance of cooperation in Olympic Values Education and in delivering any kind of sport for development programs. Because, the Olympic family, we can all support each other. And the experience that one country can have, or the experience that another country can have, we can actually share that, and we can support each other in delivering the programs, in doing the activities in our way, but also learning from others. And while thinking that the Olympic Values Education program is just this great tool that could be used in any country around the world, it is important to consider how do you develop those programs. Because as I've mentioned before, the practical part that we have done, it was our experience, it was our knowledge, and we were just trying to deliver a good quality content program to our educators and then eventually to our youth. But designing it was not that easy, because we had to rely on our own experience. Not a lot of countries have done this before in their countries. So we had to learn as we went. And while talking about the development of Olympic education programs, that was actually my master's project. And because I was thinking that when we talk about sustainable programs, when we talk about the development of the Olympic education programs, we usually talk about the content that we can give, but we also have to think about the outcome, about the results that can be there. And an educational program is a variety of educational experiences, which has a main purpose to help participants to make improvements in their lives. So when we think about that, it means that we have to, when we design the program, we have to actually assess the needs, identify the needs of our target group, design it, implement it, and then evaluate it. And there's a lot of different models and there's a lot of different ways to deliver those programs. But after careful analysis of those programs, I thought that the logic model could be a good framework for development of the Olympic education programs. Because it helps an educator or a manager or anyone who works with Olympic education to actually analyze the situation, to set the priorities, to identify what kind of resources do we have and what activities can we do and what outcomes do we expect. Because sometimes when we run educational programs, and I have seen that in my experience, sometimes we just do activities. When you do activities and you do not evaluate them, it loses the purpose. So while delivering the Olympic education programs, I just have a strong recommendation to use a system and to really know what results are you expecting and to actually evaluate all of the programs. And what is more, deliver a sustainable education program. It is important to identify some important aspects. So while planning, to identify what is the context, to do a proper analysis, to think whether that's the National Olympic Committee or the National Olympic Academy is delivering the program. What are the resources that are needed? So for the successful implementation of any Olympic education program, there are a lot of steps to be taken. And I have myself developed because I thought that, well, it is important to have a set of criteria to just see how well are we doing with our Olympic education programs here in Lithuania. So we developed a set of criteria that was more than 90 criteria on how we can actually evaluate the processes that we have with the programs, where are we at this point, and where could we get better in delivering the programs for educators and for youth. And while finishing up, I just would like to say that Olympic values education is a great opportunity. It is a great opportunity for the National Olympic Committees, National Olympic Academies, also universities to be delivered for their students who will later become probably teachers or coaches. And we have to use this opportunity to educate youth, to help them develop their values, to help them stay physically active and to encourage them to be physically active for life, and to support them in their efforts. Because, well, the future, we will see what the future holds for us. But obviously, we understand that every day there's more challenges. And we have to help the younger generation to understand how they can tackle the challenges, how can they solve the issues that are there, and how they can be their best and be the Olympians in life. So thank you very much. And I really regret that I could not show you the videos and the presentation that I had ready for all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Vita. It was incredibly a very, very enlightening session. And let me phrase you with this, that your smile and your delivery of speech has overcome the barrier of that technical glitch. So you have well. The essence of the session, the presentation from you was definitely the awareness, which is very much important in these days. So having an awareness of Olympic value education program, it's very, very important for all of us. So definitely it is a combination of a skill set and a mindset. It's the combination of both. So synchronization is very, very important. So you have really given very, very valuable inputs today in the session. So without taking much time, I would like to call upon few eminent delegates who are waiting to have some questions from you, and there are a lot of messages coming up. So I would like to invite Dr. Avdesh Shirotria and Shri Jagjit Singh on the panel over here so that you can have your questions on board. So yes, Dr. Avdesh, are you able to hear?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Very good evening to you, and very good evening to Mr. Singh. Yes, Dr. Avdesh, you can have your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Shalini. And thank you, Ms. Vita, for your very wonderful and very enriching presentation. Just I want to ask you one thing. How we can impart Olympic value education program to children who are studying in a class 6th? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Thank you. So could you clarify, class 6 is for you the age of 12 years old?
Yeah, I mean the age of 11.
Okay, 11. Perfect. So the great thing about the Olympic Values Education Program and the manuals that are there is that the activities are designed for 3 different age groups. What we had done for this age, especially for 11-year-olds, not only in the sense of the Olympic Values Education Program per se, but also other activities that we had. So we have special camps for kids, especially of that age, where they have in summer day camps where they try out different sports and different activities, because this is the time where they can actually start trying out different sports, different activities to see if they want to choose a particular sport or if they want to practice several sports. But also these camps combine cultural activities, arts activities, sports activities, and also values-related activities. So every day, for instance, in this camp, every day is designed for one value. And then at the end of the day, kids are reflecting a lot upon the values with their educators. What I said before as well, when I was talking about the Olympic Values Education Program, reflection is the crucial part for learning. So we do that. And also we have another project that we do for the similar kids of the similar age. That is the Fair Play Challenge, because we usually find fair play is difficult. It's a very important value, but it's very difficult to say to a child, well, you have to play fair, or you have to be fair in every environment. What is fairness? Like we all understand this in such different ways. So we have this Fair Play Challenge where kids and their teachers, they analyze the concepts of fair play. They do specific activities that are designed for our NOC, their schools, and then we invite them to different final events where through physical activity, through physically active workshops, they have to sometimes choose some activities. So whether maybe routes, I would say, whether that's a fair activity or not a fair activity. What is fairness in some different settings? Because talking is easy, but experiencing things and making decisions when you have to do that, this is important. So I think that all of the programs, especially in this age where around 11, where you can already have quite interesting discussions with kids, you have to definitely have some physically active workshops together with analysis and reflection on the activities and on their behavior or in their educators' behavior. This is very important, I think.
Can you please, can you allow me to ask one more question, Ms. Shalini?
Definitely. I will come back to you. Can we proceed to Mr. Singh first? So we have already 2 questions lined up, but I'll definitely come back to you. Don't worry.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you, and good evening. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers to organize this international webinar. And I'm Jagjit Singh from working in Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, and it was a wonderful session by Dr. Vita. And in our Kendriya Vidyalayas, more emphasis is given to sports. Like we have developed a program of Swasth Bachche Swasth Bharat in physical fitness program. under which physical fitness components are to be assessed. And my question is that how can we develop the Olympic value education program in school level, or in school level, how can we inculcate the values of that Olympic and this program, Olympic education?
Thank you for your question. So this is what we're doing actually, because we are going through with the Olympic Values Education Program. We are going through the educational sector, and we're working with kindergartens and with high schools, and also with universities actually. But first of all, that's what we say, that we think that training is very important, and training for educators is crucial. So that you need your teachers to believe that this program is useful. And I had so many trainings, and I heard also our trainers tell some stories about the trainings where some teachers would come, they teach totally different subjects. That's not physical education at all. But they come in and they sit with their hands like this. They're just a bit more reserved. They don't know what they're doing there. After the first day of the train, and then the first introduction, they say, well, I think it's not for me. I'm not really sporty. I'm not physically active. I don't know what I'm doing here. Well, the school organized this for me. After the first day, the teacher's like, maybe this is for me. Maybe I could use it in my different settings. So I think that it's important to obviously to look into your educational system and how you can work with municipalities or regional governments to do that. But actually, to make this program work, you need teachers on board, and teachers have to be there with you. So for us, I think it's when we do activities, we do them so that they will be useful for teachers, so that they are different for teachers, so that they find it interesting for them. And then we build this community. And when you have a community and each person can support each other, can help each other, this is where actually, for me, some part of the true Olympism happens, is when people support each other and people want to actually integrate those things. And when you said that you have this assessment, physical fitness assessments, and all of those stuff in school, of course, it is important, physical activity, and we have to, physical education teachers, they have to ensure that kids are active, because they do not have that much physical activity at schools. But through different things like games, team sports, there's so many things that are happening. There's sometimes kids don't play very fairly. So every time educator can stop the activity and actually have some kind of a speech, conversation, or reflection on what has happened and what hasn't happened. But again, I'm coming to the same point. You have to train the teachers. This is the key.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we have one more delegate with us, Dr. Vineet Mehta. And Dr. Vineet Mehta, very good evening to you. You can definitely share your question at this platform, please.
Yeah, good evening to Vita and good evening to all.
Your audio is very low, Dr. Vineet. You have to come a little closer. Yeah.
Okay.
It is better.
Good evening, Vita, and good evening all. I am Dr. Vineet from the
Dr. Vineet, I think your video and audio is on hold. We are not able to hear you. All right. Till the time.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, please.
Yeah. How you looking post-COVID activities in school in relation with Olympic education? Actually, because the social distancing and all is going to be, I think, in next 1 or 2 years is going to be happen. So how do you think that such kind of activities can be managed and all?
This is a very, very good question. Thank you. And that's also very difficult to answer question. We are also in Lithuania, now the school year is just ending, so we are starting summer holidays for kids. So we have around 2 months to actually identify and look at the situation. Here, the situation is not that bad actually. So we are going quite well, and we believe that we will start the year in a normal way. That means that in a school setting. Obviously, social distancing is that challenge with the idea that every kid might have to have a different sports equipment or disinfect the equipment. This makes it very difficult. But I believe, in the Olympic Values Education program, in the manuals, and also in different activities that we do, as I said at one point, that you have to learn how to learn individually, but how to learn collaboratively as well. So I think that while delivering the Olympic Values Education program, creativity is the key for that. So finding the ways that kids can communicate, maybe not having the social distance, having the social distance, not having the social contact, or having a necessary distance in the activities that they do. This will be the challenge, and actually this is why we are also meeting our trainers, and we will be discussing the issues, and we will also be discussing the trainings, because also in the past months we could not deliver the trainings the way we were doing before, because obviously the contact is the tool as well, together with physical activity. So we are experiencing some challenges as well, but I think that creatively, we can all also working together, we can all find the ways to do things a bit differently, at least for now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to further add on to Ms. Vita's phrase over here, that yes, it is a social distancing right now, but it is not a time for mental distancing, as we are having a webinar over here. So definitely we all can share our views, we can share our ideas, and we can contribute to each other, and we can inspire different lives over here. So there is no mental distancing over here. There is no knowledge distancing over here. So we can definitely work together on this particular platform. Yes, Dr. Avdesh, coming back to you again. So we have a few minutes left. So quickly, you can share your question.
Thank you. So Ms. Vita, I just want to know, what are those challenges you have been faced while executing the Train the Trainer program? As you mentioned that you have executed the program, Train the Trainers. So what are the various challenges you have been encountered during those time?
That's a very good question as well. So first of all, so we brought this group of 20 people from all over the country. They have very different backgrounds, they have different experience, and they have different knowledge in Olympic education. And our main idea was that they have to become a team. If we want to deliver the activities, we want them to be able to work together and to face difficult situations, as I mentioned to you before. Sometimes I believe that most of you have experienced that in some groups, there are just several people who attend the activity, but they are not there, or they're not that present there. Or there's some challenging people. We always have challenging people in different situations. So you have to actually figure out the ways to work with people. You have to figure out the ways to inspire people. So for us, probably the first challenge would be to actually make that 20 people group actually a team, to build a team. But I think that we've done a pretty good job on that. And then the other one was to support the educators, because they were educators before. Now they had to become trainers. So we had to give them a set of skills. We had to work together with them and face their fears. We have to work together and figure out the ways how to work with challenging people, or with challenges when they feel that they have in the group settings. Because at the very beginning, me, myself, and the trainers, we were together with all of these educators, and then we kind of let them go and do the trainings. So that was also challenging for us, to let them go and to rely on them to deliver the program that we believe very important, because we always think, I don't know, but like myself, I believe in everything that we do very strongly, and it's amazing to see when you can inspire people to do the same things, or to actually do different things, but also believe in that power of Olympism. So that's actually fascinating. So that's not the challenge, that's an amazing addition probably to the work that we do.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Vita. We have only 1 minute left as per our schedule, and I'm able to pick up one question from the live comments box. The question is how to improve interest in sports through Olympic education. I'll repeat, how to improve interest in sports through Olympic education. This is the question from the live audience. So quickly we can take up in the last 1 minute.
Oh yeah. So I think that that's the thing, that sometimes we see professional sports and we see people just doing that physical activity. Well, Olympism brings us the values and brings us the purpose behind it. I think that we all know that the inspiration knowing the inspiration and the purpose of what we are doing, this brings back the interest in sports. And when we deliver the activities, sometimes we change them up. So when we talk about the Olympic values education, it's not only about competition, because some kids, if we talk about kids, some kids are not competitive or they do not like it. So that means you have to find different approaches. And I think that the Olympic values education and the Olympic education helps us to find different approaches to actually reach those kids and to inspire them and encourage them to be physically active in different ways, different settings, not only the Olympic sports. Right?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Vita. I hope that the participant must have got the answer of the question. Well, to sum up in the end, to have a concluding notes, I would definitely would like to say that yes, I'm using your two words which you have specifically used in your presentation, that is the competitive skills and the resilience. Yes, it is very important that apart from having competitive skills, which I think millions of people have those competitive skills, but at the same time, the resilience is the most important thing, which is required by all those millions to come back and get that competitive entry in the world. So thank you so much, Ms. Vita, for such an enriching and enlightening session. And I hope that all of them must have got a lot of learnings from you today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Over to you, Anubhav.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ms. Vij. This was a very, very, very smoothly conducted session. You know, as you were speaking, as you were moderating this, I was actually taking down notes because this was definitely a lesson for everyone on how to moderate. So 10 on 10 to you for moderating this beautifully. Thank you so much again to Vita ma'am as well for her very engaging thoughts. The fact that she was able to comprehensively explain complex information to everyone without quite being able to use the aid of a PowerPoint presentation is a testament to her presentation skills as well, and how fundamentally she understands all of the topics that she was talking about. And regardless of what the viewer's background is, I think every viewer, regardless of whether they're beginners, intermediates, or experts, they were able to absorb all the information beautifully. And thank you so much for all the questions that came in from Mr. Jagjit Singh, from Vineet Mehra, from Avdesh, as well as some of the questions that we picked up from the audience as well. This was certainly a very, very, very fascinating day that we had. We started at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're ending now at 6 p.m. So we covered 8 hours, and I can't really believe that we were able to exchange such fascinating insights in 8 hours. So if I look at the ratio of how useful the information was divided by, you know, the time spent exchanging these ideas, the ratio is staggering. The ratio is through the roof. But this is just the beginning. We have day 2 of the international webinar lined up for all of viewers tomorrow. It's a slightly early start tomorrow. We kick things off at 9 a.m. Indian Standard Time, and we go all the way until 7 p.m. after which we have a closing ceremony as well. So we have a jam-packed day. A big thank you to all the viewers who joined us for today's session. I saw all the comments that were coming in. We got tremendous amount of love, tremendous support from everyone tuning in from all across the world. One request to all of you, please do follow One Play Sports' different pages. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Hello, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. And as I speak, we're actually broadcasting this concurrently on all the platforms that I mentioned. So make sure that you actually follow our channel, subscribe to our platform as well, such that you can be a part of such fascinating discussions in the future as well. You know, I must say, as someone who actually suffers from attention deficit disorder, I was still completely glued to my screen from morning until evening. That's again a testament to how beautiful, how engaging the entire session was, the entire day was. So we'll conclude proceedings on this note. As I mentioned, share the link if you haven't already done so. And when we go live tomorrow, be sure to share the link with your friends, your family members. A big thank you to the Indian Olympic Association as well as the Indian Olympic Education Committee as well. And it's been a pleasure for One Place Sports to have worked with them so far. But of course, as I mentioned, we have day 2 coming up for all the viewers tomorrow. So do subscribe to our pages so that you're notified as soon as we go live early in the morning at 9 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Thanks again for joining us for this beautiful and jam-packed day, which was full of wonderful insights from speakers and moderators from all across the world. We have day 2 of the international webinar tomorrow. Have a good night and stay safe.
Thank you very much.